Order Talbot's going to be a little bit late. Stand and recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Let's pray. We believe that you have equipped us with unique gifts and talents for this meeting. May we use them to bring about your will and accomplish our goals. A brief moment for your own intentions. Motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. Is any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's an opportunity for public comments. Anyone from the public wish to speak before us today? If there's something that's on the agenda, I ask that you wait for that item to speak. But if you got something else you'd like to speak about, the opportunity for the public to speak. Not seeing anyone come forward, so let's move on to routine business. Equalization.
Good morning, Commissioners. Reed Crane, Director of Equalization. I do have some good news today. Number one, I believe my abstract will be approved today at long last. After, since mid-May trying to get this done. And we also learned yesterday that we did win our OHE case that Mike represented us on in Pierre. I do have vendor stats for you if you're interested in that. We collected $141,200 in vendor fees, which is up about 23% from last year. 204 vendor booths were permitted. 42% of those are actually new applications from last year, slightly higher than normal. And we did collect $2,750 in fines from 11 booths out in the field. Other than that, it's routine work. Field work is finished up by Jill. Things are going well.
Just a couple of things.
Yes.
We all know what the abstract means, but I bet you nobody in the public knows. And I apologize for not getting the vendor story written.
No worries.
I was not in the mood to write rally stories.
For those that are interested, the abstract is our final evaluation of numbers for 2025, which is what our taxes for 25 payable 26 will be based on.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for equalization? Let's move down to facilities.
Good morning, Commission. Ben Petrocco, Meade County Facilities Director here with just a short report on some of our workload from the month of July and early August. We had another very busy month with rally preparations and around 51 work orders, I believe. In the month of July, we did have 6 after-hour call-ins. Most were due to plumbing issues, sewer drain backing up in the jail. And we also did have, as you know, we had several storms roll through in July, mostly in the early part. Lots of lightning. We did take a lightning strike to the jail building, and it resulted in some fire alarm surge protection devices going down at about, I think it was like 3 a.m. in the morning. And what that did was the surge protection actually did its job and burned up, so it prevented other parts of the fire alarm system, panels and whatnot, from being heavily damaged, so that was a good thing. But it basically cut the communication from the main panel in the law center to the courthouse. It couldn't see any of the devices over there. So I had to come in and get that alarm shut down because it was beeping like crazy in the control room and they were losing their minds. So
I could see why.
Yeah. So
has that ever happened before? Have we ever had a lightning strike to one of our buildings?
Not like this year, because we've had one in the courthouse now that took out a bunch of motor starters, and then this one, and then the next thing I was going to talk about is we had one at Enning too on our tower out there, and it actually caused the generator transfer switch to burn up, and the control board and everything got taken out, even with surge protection on the panel. So I'm waiting on parts still to go get that transfer switch swapped out. I've got some of them, but I don't have the transfer switch parts yet. So right now I've got it bypassed where we don't actually have backup power out there until I get that fixed. Yeah, I mean, it was just been a bad month for lightning for sure. Another project we were able to complete in July was right before the rally. We installed a new security camera up on the Law Center, kind of facing the intersection of Main Street there. And we've always kind of had some blind spots in our security camera there. So this one actually is it's a quad view, and it's a really nice camera. It's really going to enhance our security on the building, or at least our recording capabilities of, you know, that front step area and the intersection and stuff where we were kind of lacking before. That was good.
So then are there screens in dispatch or the control room?
We can set them up. You know, I don't know what all Tony set up for viewing yet, but they can be set up wherever on any view, just like the rest of our cameras. Overall, the rally went fairly smooth for us. We just had, you know, a couple of the normal plumbing and HVAC weekend call-in issues, but overall, no major failures. So, pretty good rally, even though I feel like it was one of the biggest ones we've had probably in quite some time, just with the amount of people, and it was definitely busy. I'm actually meeting with the courthouse roof guy this afternoon, and we're going to start. They're planning on starting construction on that tomorrow. So our crew this afternoon is going to try to get up on the roof and remove all the electrical feeding all the lights on the parapet wall, heat tape, so that they can work up there. We're going to try to temporary in as many lights as we can, but I'm not sure how that's all going to work quite yet. So it might be a little bit darker in the parking lot for the next couple weeks. They're telling me they're going to knock it out pretty quick. Within like 2 weeks, it'll be done. So that'll be good to get that thing finally going. I haven't heard for sure on the Law Center when they're planning on starting that one yet, but I'm hoping we can get the courthouse knocked out first, and then might help us with the parking a little if we don't have to block off as much for both projects at the same time. That's kind of all I got to report for right now, I guess. You guys have any other questions?
Any questions for Mr. Petracco?
What's the status of the boiler? Did we get everything replaced on it?
The boiler?
Yeah.
We were never doing anything with the boiler. The cooling tower?
The cooling tower, yeah.
The cooling tower has been pushed back to fall now because they couldn't get it in this spring before we got into the season where we really needed it. They have it in their shop. Rasmussen has it on site, but we just got to, right now we can't shut that thing down.
Just wait until it...
Yeah, it's going to be November, December probably before that's going to happen now.
What are you going to use I don't know if you call it a lift. What do you call that thing out there in the parking lot?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't know
I mean,
that was
I'd love it, you know, to clean my windows at home.
I don't know who that is. Nobody contacted me about putting that there. I'm going to go find out right after the meeting. Yeah. I walked over here and I'm assuming it's got to do with the roof guys that I'm going to go talk to.
Do they have the wrong building in mind, you think?
Must be what happened. I blocked off an area for them over at the courthouse, but yeah, I'll go find that out.
Any other questions? Hey, thanks, Ben. No one here from Human Resources? IT.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commission. Tony Cummins, IT. KPI for July was about average. We had 113 odd work orders. July, last 2-3 weeks of July was a lot of prep work for getting ready for the rally, obviously. So a lot of that stuff doesn't get recorded. It's just the day-to-day stuff. You know, happy to report that in all my years here at the county, it was one of the least disruptive years from an IT perspective. I know Ben had some issues with his side of the fence, but IT related, we had one of the easier rallies that I've experienced so far. And that is partly down to, you know, learning from last year's issues that we had, addressing those, And you guys allowed me to purchase that hardware back in November, December to replace all the switches and firewalls, which allowed me to have that, back up and failover in place for those bumps that Ben was talking about, the power supply stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to tempt fate, but it was, IT. We had a good year.
Good year.
Yeah. Just the usual reports that I'm putting up there. Everything is kind of on par with normally what I report back. Just different dates, different stats. Our DNS and our vulnerability patching, etc., is up to par. We got our CISA guys that are monitoring our external entities and reporting back any vulnerabilities that they're finding, which none reported. So yeah, I don't have anything else really to report other than that.
Any other questions for Mr. Cummins?
On our lightning strikes, did we lose any other things? I thought we lost a couple power strips or something.
So we had, Ben had bigger issues than I had, thankfully. We did lose some power strips that kind of fried a couple of power supplies from tablets and laptops and stuff like that. Nothing too serious. I think I had three hardware replacements, be it 2 power supplies, minimal dollar amount, and then one Maxis laptop here. It went to heaven here recently, so we're currently rebuilding a desktop for her.
Does she want mine?
I think she needs something a little bit more GIS related.
A little bit bigger.
I think that would drive her nuts, honestly. But that's about it for me. Yep.
So just to kind of reiterate, make sure that we have things plugged into power strips.
Yes.
For a reason.
Yep. Yep. I did purchase a secondary UPS just to have in our main DMARC room. Ben assisted in installing that and setting that up for me. That will also help, with the smaller bumps and stuff like that, just to keep those 2 core switches up and running. So, yep.
Any other questions for Tony? Hey, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Brings us to treasurer. If you'd called the last meeting, we had discussed this. It wasn't on the agenda, so we could not act on it. Treasurer Shrake had asked us to consider allowing us to close the office at 4:30 due to some issues that not just she and her office is having, but pretty much all the treasurers across the state is having. So it's been kind of time consuming to get that done. So go ahead, Treasurer Shrake.
Yes, Robin Shrake, Meade County Treasurer. Yes, I am asking that we continue to have the office hours for the treasurer to be 8 until 4:30. That allows us from 4:30 to 5 not only to return phone calls that we do get in throughout the day, to have 15 minutes to do that, but also to balance out, to make sure that we balance with the state, so we can get that remedied prior to closing out with the state that day.
Any questions, comments from the commission?
Is there a duration that you need? Or not?
We had talked the last time to do 3 months, and it's working. We're still having issues with the state. For instance, last week, granted was rally, we were able to get out of here at a halfway decent time because a lot of people weren't coming in to do plates, etc. That being the case, we did have one that we had to go back on, and we had called the state before they closed, and they gave us a whole list of things that we had to do to fix this problem. And if we're fixing that right at 5, if we can't get to it, it took us a little while to get that corrected.
Is it getting better, or is it status quo, or what's going on?
I'll be honest with you, it's frustrating. I mean, we were on this morning with the state. We send on all the necessary documents, and people are still getting letters saying that they owe excise tax, and we're sending in everything. So now we're trying to get that remedied, because everything that we're sending to them is correct. And we're having issues with that, where people are getting charged, trying to get a hold of the state. Also with balancing, if we are needing to go back in, somebody comes in, says, oh, I didn't want this plate, we have to back it out and get that corrected. If it doesn't work, then we're trying to correct that issue. So we balance out at night, meaning that somebody can get a plate, They didn't want that plate. We have to do 2 different steps, processes,
And
to
this
get that cleaned out.
This is different from what it used to be.
Correct.
Is
It used to be,
is
I'm sorry.
Getting any better, or? Is there-
No, it is not.
Is it? Oh, go ahead.
I can attest to it. On company stuff, I'm getting
I know.
my vehicles, some of my trailers and stuff don't even show up on them. That we've had for-
Correct, and I think they wanted you to provide proof of purchasing a trailer too, if I'm not mistaken. We're still dealing with that, which is frustrating because
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to keep the hours from 8 to 4:30 until the end of the year.
Second.
So, just for discussion, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going to get there, but shouldn't we grant her the discretion that if she thinks it's been resolved, that she can adjust those hours in that motion? Otherwise, under the motion, I think the hours, she doesn't have the power to change the hours.
I'll amend, or I'll change my motion to hold the hours from 8 to 4:30 till the end of the year, unless at your discretion you want to go to 5.
Sounds good.
Just to be clear, 8 to 4:30 is what you'll be open to the public. Is that correct? Yes.
correct.
Okay. Yep. Well, include that in the minutes if you would, please.
And many treasurers' offices are closing even at earlier
At
in
4
order
o'clock. Mm-hmm.
to get through the day.
And the reason why they're doing that is because they cannot contact the state if they do have an issue.
Okay, we have a motion and second on the floor to hold the hours open to the public in the treasurer's office from 8 to 4:30, and also giving Treasurer Shrake the discretion, if it improves, that she could change those hours within that time frame. This is but otherwise it'll go till the end of the year. Any more discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for.
Thank you, and I'll make sure that every time I do a KPI, I keep you informed on what's happening.
Hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, real good. Thank you.
Thank you
Has
again.
the state given you any indication as to how soon some of these software issues are going to get resolved, or if they have any of the software engineers on site that produce this expensive program?
Nobody is on site up in Pierre. Everything is done down in Colorado in the Denver metro area. We put tickets in daily on issues that we have. They look at them, they kick out the tickets, and they have not been resolved. So we've had to reissue new tickets again. We have been keeping documentation of everything that we send in, whether it's screenshots, scans, everything, so we can say, hey, we told you about this, it isn't resolved. So we are keeping support for us.
And remember, the state is getting paid an extra $2 per transaction
For every fee.
for every fee.
For every fee that the state, it's an additional $2.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate this.
Yep. Let's go down to the auditor.
Rhea Crane, Meade County Auditor. I have included both the expense report and the revenue report, which is through the end of July, for your review. It appears that we are on track right where we should be.
Any questions on that? Comments? Okay, let's move down to the overtime report. Any questions, comments on that? I guess I have a few on this overtime report. You have it up on the screen.
Yep.
Overtime is up 20% this year, which we were, at this time last year, we were a little alarmed at some of these numbers, and they continue to rise. I'll be honest with you, I'm a believer in overtime for the right reasons. I don't like to knock it, because there's times deputies can't get out, and there's times that highway crews need to be out on Saturday, Sunday. So I mean I don't necessarily have anything wrong with it, anything against it, but I was alarmed when I started looking at these numbers a little bit closer and see that they continue to go up. And with budget coming up, it gets tougher and tougher to budget wages when this keeps increasing. That's all there is to it, because we don't necessarily budget for the overtime, and so there just trying to make a point here. Yeah, I was just a little bit surprised to see it went up 20%.
And I bet you, after this current payroll goes in, it'll increase. I bet you the overall increase will be 35%.
Well, and
minimum.
Yeah, I'm looking at it from
right.
8/9 of 2024 to
Yeah.
8/8 of 2025.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm comparing
just
the same time to
blow.
last year. So last year we had overall we had approximately $375,000 was paid out in overtime. Again, there's times when that is necessary, and I know people that live out by me would rather see the plows collecting overtime and getting the roads done when the conditions are right. So there is a time and place for it. But with that said, we got budget coming up, and we're scrambling for every dime that we can. So everything's got to be looked at. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, so looks like communications obviously is the big one. I think we're short some people. I think one of the things that would be helpful to look at, because we budget for regular employment, not really for overtime. So sometimes when you see that overtime, there's a regular hourly component that wasn't paid out, and that's what drove the overtime. So I think you got to look at the whole thing, because if they had to work extra hours because they're short somebody, because we had a hole there was somebody not filling a position, we do have that FTE. So to me, it's a kind of a net question as opposed to whether you got to look at the whole thing to figure it out. And I'm not sure. You don't really get the data like that, so.
And I think we have 2 more FTEs in that department than we did 18 months ago.
Which is fine. If we've got 2 FTEs, if they were budgeted for this year, then the question is, where are we on the actual salary budget? And then, so maybe the overtime doesn't look as bad, but maybe overtime actually looks worse once you look at that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Our net wages last year they were close in most departments. So you're 100% right. I know communications was down earlier with employees, so that would lead to some overtime.
Right.
They should, to my knowledge, is caught up at this point in time.
I believe
and we have a new trainer. I was hoping she could get here today. Just to introduce her to the commission. Sounds like she's doing a really good job over there. I know Highway's been down 6 guys for most of summer, so you raise a valid point. I just, like I said, when I just put this comparison together, I was surprised to see, because it going up 20%.
No,
I just wanted to point it out. So
and I appreciate that, because obviously payroll is a huge component of our cost. And payroll seems to be growing at a much faster rate than we can grow our budget under state law. So it's something we got to pay attention to. Making a point that we got to look at kind of the holistic thing. And maybe that's where the department heads should be coming in. Here, I've done the analysis, and here's why the overhead hired, rather than us just here's an overhead report, and ask a department head to actually explain why your overhead is 15% of your budget.
Yep. And that's kind of what I was leading to as well. As I mentioned, there is a time and place for overtime, and so some of that probably is justified, and it'd be nice to hear from some of the department.
On the good news, we're now down just 1 person in Highway.
That's great.
There's been a lot of hiring in the last 2 weeks.
Well, didn't you offer to help them out over there, and is that part of it?
Yes. Okay. Didn't you see me wave as I went by on the motor grader?
That's wonderful.
Doreen drove the telehandler to work today.
Any other questions, comments on the overtime report?
Just to let you know, communications is about 7% off of the average, so they're not terribly far off. They're 35% left of their budget for a week.
Okay, if there's no more comments, let's move down to highway.
Good morning, Commission. Troy Eastman, Highway Superintendent. Okay, the first agenda item is to set the public hearing for the 5-year plan. This is a annual procedure that we do every year just to get our list together of projects, potential projects, and wish list items that we have to, get to everyone's attention and present to the state. So hopefully we can receive some funding for.
And if it's not on the 5-year plan, we're not eligible for funding
Correct.
for that project. That 5-year plan can be amended or modified at any time during the year to incorporate the information.
Yes.
The formality.
And we modify it once or twice a year.
I was going to say, I think we just did this maybe in July or...
Yeah, in July for the big grant stuff. We have things that pop up that we qualify for, so we amend the plan accordingly.
I'll make a motion to set the public hearing for September 23rd at 10 a.m.
Motion and second on the floor to set the public hearing for the Highways 5-year plan for September 23rd at 10 a.m. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Traffic count analysis.
Yeah, this is just another standard procedure that we do within the highway department is count all the cars on the roads.
Is that what you have Doreen doing?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She helps all different, aspects of the highway, so
I apologize.
But I guess the big one here is we counted Fort Meade Way, which we do every year, during the rally and stuff like that, just to kind of get the average daily, our traffic counts. I know that DOT does this too. I'd like to compare what they see as well. But yeah, any roads that have a potential of a project or special interest going on, we keep an eye on those. But as you can see here, the yellow ones are what we're counting or have recently counted, and then there's other ones that we're adding as they come up. But yeah, the blank ones are still yet to go for this year's plan.
I went back last night and checked your numbers from a year ago, and it looks like the ones in yellow are up about at least 20% from last year. And I did drive out on Fort Meade Way, and I was surprised it was holding up as well as it was.
Yeah, no, we're very happy with it.
Shocked.
Mm-hmm. No, compared to 2 years ago when I, was my first rally, whatever, and I guess it was, 2 years ago when we had all that rain, so it was just a pothole mess, and I didn't even know you could have that many potholes in a road, but we did. And I'm very happy with the way it held up, and luckily we didn't get a lot of rain at the time, even though, rain is good, but it can be bad when you mix it with that much traffic, so yeah, we're happy with that road, and it's kind of weird. We have all these people show up and all the complaints stop.
So kind of a recap on Fort Meade Way, just so everybody understands what we did is we put gravel on it, and then we put base stabilization on it last year, and we put mag chloride on it for the surfacing top. And we blade it very seldom at this point. There's a couple times that we go out and do some maintenance on it, but it really held up very well under the amount of traffic that we had on that road. So kudos to the highway department and Troy. You did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I even noticed the big pothole in front of the gate going into Buffalo Chip was not there, unless it came back at the end of the year.
No, that held up very well too. Normally that's an annual thing. We get to go out in the middle of the rally, start fixing pothole right there. But yeah, this year it held up.
I was really happy with how that one turned out.
Any other questions on these roads for Troy? Troy, I have been getting a lot of calls, some emails here recently. I suspect there's some people listening online about New Underwood Road.
Sure.
What's the future? What's the plan? We've done some work on it. We milled it up. Could you explain what the next step is, what the process is?
Sure. No, we finished. The contractor finished doing the second milling and grinding, and then the application of the base stabilization. And we like to let that set. We like to run traffic across it to see what's going to happen to it, just in short term, before we're going to go spend more money on it. And obviously, there's a few spots that need touching up that has some loose aggregate. We haven't seen any real soft spots where people are like falling through and creating big holes, but you got to have a tight surface in order to do anything else, or before you waste any time or effort. Oops, excuse me.
Probably a complaint call.
But
somebody calling you about a pothole.
Yeah, probably. But no, there's definitely some spots that need some more work done, or to get it tightened up before we can do a chip seal. And as part of it, I mean, I've learned to do this with any road that I'm about to do a chip seal or pave. If you have that opportunity to let traffic run on it to find out where it's going to fail before you go that next step, it's a good idea in my opinion. So that's basically where we're at right now. And I've talked to the contractor. We know, there's some loose material, but there's spots that are just exactly what we wanted. So, I mean, we'll address those and we'll move forward as planned. So.
And the next part of that plan is auto seal on top, right?
Yes, yep.
So it'll be a semi-hard surface, aggregate, and oil surface on top.
Yeah, it's very similar to a chip seal. It's just, different style. The amount of aggregate, the amount of oil is the main difference, but it's basically the same process. So
best case, will that get done this year before winter?
Yeah,
obviously,
we're still
we don't
on.
know when snow's going to fly, but
we are on plan. As long as we can address these spots and get that under control, I mean, that is the biggest challenge right now, is just to make sure the base is solid before you move forward. So that's what we're working on now.
Which brings me up, yesterday I saw John Jordan. I'm sure you know John. Lives there. He wanted to know why the contractor was not using water for the second go-around out there yesterday in order to get a good compaction.
Well, they were using water, but I don't know if they used enough. Before we had Mother Nature helping on that end of it, but no, they have to use water to get the right density and all this and that, and they were using water. I mean, maybe they didn't use enough in spots or whatever, but I know that they had to use water, and the way that they do it, you might not see a water truck right there with them, but when they inject that in with the base stabilization, it's being used, and I mean, without it, it would just be dry powder.
And so I assured John. John was wondering if we had anybody inspecting it as it was going along, and I assured him we did with $1 million project. I assume I did not misspeak.
No, yeah, we were keeping very close eye on things, and I was getting progress reports as they went on, and also the traffic reports, trying to keep the trucks under control and stuff like that. I had many phone calls, and we had several people observing as well, because I wanted to get different reports from different people throughout the project, and to know where we're at, and just how it's going, and if there were any issues, that we'd make sure we get them addressed. So. And there, I mean, it's a big project, so not everything's perfect, and we're getting those addressed. And I mean, this is not uncommon. I thought, actually, all in all, it went better than I thought. I thought we're going to have some issues, especially that first go around with all the rain and the time frame between the first phase and the second phase. I thought we were really going to be vulnerable there, but luckily we made it through that all right, and nobody got stuck in the middle of New Underwood Road. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Yeah. And so there's going to be further assurance that the compaction is perfect before the final.
Absolutely.
Layer.
Yep, that's what we're working on now, and there are a few spots, like I said, that need to be addressed, but that's what we're doing before we can really move forward. I don't want to waste money by putting something on top of something that isn't hard.
So just, the roads are, we had those rains here a couple of weeks ago where we had a lot of people complaining about the gravel roads.
Yeah.
And we've got, as we've talked about it before, our soils have kind of a lot of clay in them, so sometimes it gets slick.
Mm-hmm.
As I tell people, it's better to get a downpour than an all-day rain for our roads almost. But are you guys tracking, here's what I see as some concerns. We've got these kind of roads that have these issues. From the planning standpoint, we're just seeing lots of development. And it's bad even out, where Gary lives, some of the farmers and ranchers, they've kind of lived with it. But now we're seeing this heavy residential traffic, where we're kind of, where are you guys tracking kind of the issues we're having with roads, who the issues are with, so we can maybe do some planning as to upgrades, and, around that Box Elder area, I just don't see that we're going to see anything but more and more people moving out into that area.
Right.
Box Elder's letting people chop up lots close to town, and that we're still running roads on, and
Yeah, no, we have obviously kept a really close eye on those roads with not only the traffic counts, but just the amount of times that we get called to have to go out there and keep fixing the same road over and over and over again. And we've already started addressing some of those with where we're putting mag and base stabilization and things like that. But the main thing for us is try to reduce the maintenance.
Yeah.
And with reduced maintenance, it's reduced gravel, all facets of a road. And, just Fort Meade Way alone, when I started, was a mess. You couldn't go a single rainstorm without having to go right back out there and do it all over again.
Right.
And, it's been a night and day difference from that. Yeah, we put some money into the gravel and the base last year, and the year before that, because we did sections at a time. But, it's proven to me just in the amount of reduced effort and, maintenance, labor costs, that it's well worth it to do this as you're putting down new gravel. You might as well preserve that, do whatever you can to preserve that gravel, and only have to put it down once every, whatever it is, 10, 20 years, however long you can get it to last, versus every year, like Avalanche Road. We've been fighting that since the day I've got here. It's been nonstop, and it needs more than just the gravel surface. Even mag doesn't really, it helps, but honestly, it's still not the answer. So yeah, we're definitely keeping track. Elk Creek Road, that's another one that was one of the first ones we addressed, that we could blade it every week. Dry, wet, didn't matter. It was a mess every single time. You go down, it wouldn't hold up a week. And now we've gotten it down to, it can go at least a month in any condition. So, we've proven that, there are better options than what we were doing. And now it takes time to kind of weigh what we were doing versus what the costs are now, but the amount of maintenance is definitely reduced on those. So, we kind of have a formula of what's working, and are there better products, solutions? Yeah, for sure, but just doing what we can do within the highway department with normal equipment and blading a gravel road, yeah, we figured out how to do it, and we address these roads that are the high traffic areas and the ones that are growing the most. So, we do definitely have a plan and are planning accordingly as things develop.
Yeah, I appreciate that. These are actually some roads in Rich's area that I've just seen a lot of building on it. And, I get constituents telling me, well, just don't let people subdivide, but that's not how the law works. If they come in with a subdivision proposal that meets the ordinance, you have to let them do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what property rights are about. So, we're not going to stop it. So I think I like the idea of, you've done a nice job, I think, kind of changing it up. How we used to do Elk Creek Road, used to work for Elk Creek Road, but you put another 100 houses on it. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Right.
And we're running into some of those issues. So, I know we worked the 5-year plan. I think maybe we need to look at some of these roads and get it out publicized, and maybe even take a look at some of these roads and maybe try and just to do a portion of them to see how it holds up. So when people are driving them, they can tell, okay, this is where the county's done the difference one, but if they can't tell, maybe something else has to go. So.
Sure.
And I think part of what we've tried to do is, one is traffic counts. That's a huge benefit for us.
I think the traffic count's been a really good idea.
And the second one is our base stabilization efforts. We've done, last couple of years, we've done test sections where we did base stabilization, mag, base stabilization, chip seal, just base stabilization, just mag. So we're starting to get some of that data aggregated. So hopefully we can, because paving a road is obviously pretty expensive. So we're looking at some alternatives and just trying to approach those.
Yeah,
I think we're starting to get some good data. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen improvements, and we've addressed the biggest problem roads that, the way I seen it anyway, the day I showed up. We've solved some of those problems. So if we can do that on Fort Meade Way, we could pretty much do that about any road. We just got to put the time and effort into it.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I think we just prioritize them and kind of let people know that we're working towards them. I mean, everybody I think on this up here got calls during the rain too, so it's a matter of, I think people are receptive to, here's the plan, here's what they're trying to do, kind of thing. So.
Yep, no, that's a good idea. We can easily, make that more aware.
Do we have any idea, or can you bring forward to us what we figure it costs per mile to get Fort Meade Way into the shape we got it?
Yeah, Rich and I were talking about that, and Earl as well, just to get that data from, we switched over from our old system, the Ultra system, to PubWorks here about that same time. Right. So we have all that new data in our PubWorks system, so it's very easy to gather all that up to make a simple report. What it's costing us today from when I started, when we were blading it every week. And, I mean, there would be mud halfway to town coming off of Fort Meade Way, when it rains. And now look at it this year, just that alone is pretty noticeable to anyone. So it's been a heck of a difference. And when you don't let people take all your gravel and your mag home with them every day, it lasts longer too.
And they like it too.
Absolutely.
And I can think of several roads that we could do that on.
Yep, and we've started working our way out. I mean, it might not have been publicized as far as, where we've tried base stabilization, but we're well aware of what the problem areas are, and the closer to town it is, the more heavily used and more visible it is. So we started addressing those kind of quietly, but just to make our lives easier. I didn't have any complaints so far, so I guess it's working.
And I mean, it is an expensive effort to do those sections. We have put some money into those, but I think that it's paying off. We'll start working through the plan for that now that we're starting to get what the best method for our county is.
Well, yeah, and you might have roads that works on Fort Meade Way, but it doesn't work on Antelope because of just the soil differences.
There's that too, yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, appreciate the information, Troy. I appreciate all that you and the crew's doing out there. Like I said, it's an undaunting task. It seems like it's just playing catch up all the time. But
feels like
appreciate
it, yeah.
all the information today. We're going to need to get moving on with the agenda still. Unless there's any quick question, I guess let's just get moving on. So brings us to F in the agenda, to discretionary formula, which the discretionary formula, for those of you that don't know, the state allows the county to authorize the Board of Commissioners to adopt a formula in assessment. I guess the assessment is the same, but the rate at which the taxes are paid. Currently, Meade County, as any industrial, commercial, ag, there's 5 different categories in that, and then there's 3 different categories within some housing stuff. That's the industrial, commercial, which we're in, is a 5-year plan. We have set it, I believe, in 2022. It was set at all zeros. The state allows the commission to go to a 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 without the local effort having to make up anything else. So it was discussed by another fellow commissioner and I to put this back on the table and take a look at it this year. And so that's what we're doing today. I do know there's some people from the public that would like to speak to that. I'll allow the public to speak first to it, and we'll offer any questions. Probably give you guys about 5 minutes or so.
Good morning, Commission. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning.
Paul, could you identify yourself?
Oh, certainly. Please? Thank you. Paul Bisson, Chair of Sturgis Economic Development. This is Brandon Block with Sturgis Economic Development as well. So, yes, first I'd like to thank the Commission for their past support of the present discretionary formula. It's been a great asset to, I believe, the county as well as Sturgis Economic Development for bringing businesses to the area that wouldn't have come otherwise. Brenda will go into more detail on that in just a minute. One of the things that, specifically to our nonprofit benefit, it's tough to draw businesses when a building isn't there ready for them to come into. And with the present discretionary formula, it allows us to take that risk, more willing to take that risk of building a building, not knowing if somebody's going to occupy it when we don't have to pay taxes on it right away. So we've built, I think, 5 buildings out there with no business in mind to be located in it, and they are all full now. So I don't have the job numbers. Brenda might touch on that, but it's just been a great asset to us. So it's kind of like what you were just talking about with the highway department. It's kind of painful not collecting taxes on it, but it's a good investment in my mind as far as future taxes that'll be collected that may not have been generated at all if it had not been for this discretionary formula. With that, I'll turn it over to Brenna.
Good morning. So just some high-level numbers for you guys. Within the last few years, we had 16 businesses come to Sturgis and Meade County, and that was a huge tool for them to be able to come here, put their business here, build. And so 16 businesses is a pretty big impact. I know that we have 2 currently on I-90 that are going to be utilizing this discretionary formula, as well as 2 more in our industrial park, and we have 10 more projects in the pipeline. Just for another high-level piece of information, every county in West River except for Custer County has a discretionary formula. Meade and Butte are the only counties that offer the 0% for 5 years. So it's a huge asset for us in order to build and attract those relationships with those businesses looking to come somewhere to West River. And that's something that we can say we are a little bit unique in being able to offer for them. And businesses in this day and time with interest rates and cost, it's very expensive to start a business, build a business, and actually be able to purchase fixed assets. So this is a huge tool in allowing those businesses to grow in some equity so that when that 5 years after that happens and those taxes kick in, they are established, they're successful, they're healthy, and so it's a really, really great tool that we can offer our business owners.
I should have mentioned Amanda is not available to come today, otherwise she would have joined us as well. I didn't verify this before, Brenna, but did you, Amanda said she was going to share some information with you regarding the taxes generated because of those?
I don't have that information. All I have is the 16 businesses that have been able to come, the 10 in the pipeline, and then the 4 that are currently being built. So this is just a really, really big tool for us.
So open up to any questions you might have of us before we step away.
Sure. Is there any questions for Paul or Brenna?
You know, I'm trying to remember. I think it was back in 08 or 09 when we first instituted this.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, in fact, come to think of it, was 08. It was after the stock market crashed. And we were really hopeful that a lot of businesses that were thinking of locating in Pennington County would jump the line. Some did. I can remember going to the SHOT Show and pushing that. And people thought that was really interesting, really a draw. It seems like the arms industry has kind of decreased, hasn't it?
Consolidated. Like a lot of industries, there's been a lot of consolidation.
It's kind of changed. Meade County was the only county for many, many years that only had that. And I think Scott Peterson is the one who was able to get the 0 over in Butte County because he saw what was happening over in Meade.
Yeah, his is a classic example. I don't know if we'd have gotten quite as good a dealership building here in Sturgis had it not been for that discretionary formula.
Yeah. Since then, you know, the legislature has made some significant changes in their taxing, and mandates for counties and all of our requirements for unfunded mandates that we have to pick up, and money's tight. I'm not sure where we're going today, but.
There any other questions for Paul or Brenna while they're sitting here? Otherwise, I was going to ask if anyone else in the public wants to speak on discretionary.
Yeah, the only question I have, when did Pennington County adopt discretionary? 'Cause I know last time we looked at this, they didn't have a discretionary.
Right.
I think
was
it's very
shocked.
recent. Yes, very recently they just passed a discretionary
Yeah,
formula.
because I can't find it. Just doing a quick search.
Do you know what their discretionary formula is, Brenna?
I believe it's the step up, so it's the 0-20.
I do show that Pennington County does have the 20/40 60/80.
Mm-hmm.
Starts at 20.
There's no more questions for Paul or Brenna. I was going to see if anyone else from the public would like to speak on this. Thank you guys
Thank
for
you for
coming
the
in
time.
today.
Appreciate
You
it.
bet. Mhm. Anyone else from the public wish to speak on discretionary formula?
Mr. Weisor, can I clarify?
Sure.
They offer the 20/40 60/80 only on lots.
On the
Only
developer
on,
lots.
only
The
on,
city of Wall does have other discretionary formula.
right. So, which we don't even offer. We don't offer discretionary on residential at all.
No,
Right.
but we do on developer lots.
Yeah. But not on multifamily or anything like that.
Commercial, residential, and basically anything residential we do not, essentially. But residential is typically on a 7-year formula, we only offer on all but one of the 5-year formula. That was one of my questions for today.
Yeah, so essentially Pennington County has limited theirs to residential development lots, or development lots for development of land, but doesn't do it for commercial buildings.
Pennington County does not know.
Right.
Just the lots.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that's a gigantic difference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the city of Wall probably has it on residential.
They have it on industrial. Let me make this bigger. You might be able to see the whole thing.
Is that the Secretary or Department of Revenues?
Yes.
Is there anyone else that wished to speak to the discretionary from the public? If not, I'll close it and we'll step commissioner comments. I'm going to close the public comment on discretionary and allow the commissioners to ask questions or make comments.
Well, and the city of Somerset and Sturgis could still adopt any discretionary formula they want.
No.
That is not true. They can only differ from us on the residential side.
Yes.
Oh,
If we do not have a formula, they can adopt their own. But on the residential side, they can overrule our formula.
Correct.
They have to have it the same as ours unless
Yeah,
it's residential.
We, like on that residential housing, we never adopted a discretionary for that because we thought that should all be kind of pushed towards the cities, the encouragement in where their infrastructure existed. So I'll make a couple comments because I've taken a run at this formula for a couple years. I've let it sit for a couple years. I think every year, my first 5 years I think I was on, I probably brought it up every year where I tried to make the motion to go to 20/40, 60, 80. The issue I see is at the 20/40, 60, 80, the state makes up the difference. When we go below that, all our local people make up the difference. And so I think I think especially now with the way they're looking at revising and capping certain like the legislature moving to the new restrictions on owner occupied. I mean, it's not it's anybody who's kind of follows the tax, and it shouldn't be a surprise that owner occupied housing, one of the reasons it went up so much was because the legislature set an artificial valuation on ag land, or valued it in such a way to drive the ag land valuation down, which then that tax then had to go over. Single family housing is the biggest component of our property, so then that had to pick up a greater portion. Now the legislature is going to start putting restrictions on owner occupied. So now it's going to roll over to non-owner occupied and commercial, which is going to jump up. Everybody should be ready. That's going to jump up huge. And then this formula, all it's going to do then is aggravate it back and make it worse the way we have it structured. I just don't think the zeros across the board make sense in the environment we're at, especially with as tight as our budget is. Why we can go collect it from other people. I think we've got to start saving money where we can, start working on the parities here. And if the state will make up the difference, I think that's where we want to be.
And I don't think way back in the beginning, Talbot, I don't think the state penalized our local school districts like that. I think that came into play after more counties started to adopt the discretionary formula. I could be wrong, but at the time it seems to me that Alan Aker was on the commission and, was so familiar with the state aid formula and wanted to make sure at the time it didn't impact it. And, his research may have been off, but I think the state changed the formula since our discretionary formula's been in place.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the last legislative summer study, when they were talking about taxes, out of the blue, they started talking about the discretionary formula, and particularly want to be the poster child during the next session for being at all zeros. So, yes, it's a tool, an economic tool. Yes, it can be beneficial. I think that tool still exists for the commercial and the business stuff, given that Pennington County won't go there with commercial because they don't need to offer the incentive for commercial. We're going to get the commercial, and it's going to boil over from Rapid. And we're still going to give them incentive to come this way. It just won't be quite as big of an incentive that has to be subsidized by our taxpayers. So I'm for just keeping the discretionary, but going to the 20, 40, 60, 80, so the state makes up that difference.
Any questions, comments from the commission?
I guess I agree, Talbot. I think the environment that we had previously was different than today's environment. And I think that we have brought some businesses in using these tools, but I think at some point, to put the burden back on everybody else is, that's essentially where we're at now if we keep it this way. So I think moving to the 20, 40, 60, 80 version makes a lot more sense, especially in today's tax.
Right, because the state legislature's done nothing but a teeter-totter with a tax shift from one group to the other, just boom, 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 boom. And I think the citizens are ready to completely revolt. And our hands are getting tied. And we're blamed, and the state just diddly-daddlies away, unscathed.
Mr. Severn, do you have anything to add?
No, I mean, I understand the zeros across the board, and I understand it more when our economy was, being a small business owner, it's tough no matter how you look at it. So I don't really get the full benefit of the zeros across the board, but I also understand that putting more burden on taxpayers in this board with the unknown. So I definitely agree that the latter, the 20, 40, 60, 80 was probably.
Hey, I'll just add my comments. I agree with everything that's been said. I believe in the discretionary formula. I think it's bringing stuff into our area. There's no doubt about that. I just have trouble going beyond what the state allows to, that they make the local effort make up. And that's where I've always struggled. I'll be honest, before I got on the board, I've looked at this and I know why the county did it at one time, and I think it proved to be effective. But I think it should go up to that 20, 40, 60, 80. I still want to give that discretionary. I just think it needs to. I just don't think the local effort should be having to make up for that effort. So, with that said, I don't know if anyone's ready to tackle action, or a possible suggestion would be to get this resolution cleaned up and included on our agenda next time, unless you're ready for something.
I think I can make a motion.
I do have one question with that before you do. Maybe those of you that was here in 22, why wasn't industrial and commercial included in this resolution? and there's several different categories of that.
Yeah, because that was
I don't know.
industrial construction.
It's any new industrial commercial structure or any addition, renovation, or reconstruction to an existing structure located within a designated urban renewal area as defined in 11.8.4. If the new structure, addition, renovation, or reconstruction has full and true value of $30,000 or more.
Yeah, I think the issue was that, if I recall correctly, and Rita, you might recall, we had a discussion as to the renovation or reconstruction, the difficulty with that, and the 30,000, and you can pick up the industrial under sub 2 and the commercial under sub 4 for any new construction or addition at those. So there's a bit of an overlap.
We also don't have any urban renewal classified
Right.
areas.
That didn't really fit for us, and we thought it would just cause confusion, or somebody would try to jam their stuff in there. It would just cause us problems.
Right.
I think the only time we had any areas classified as urban renewal was, I'm really dating myself, was following the 72 flood when we had an urban renewal office here in town. And that was just the area along the creek, and that area is all gone and nothing is going to be built over there.
I just thought I'd ask because that was the only category that, in the 5 years that the county does not offer.
Yeah, so...
And I would also think, since SEDC has some companies on the hook right now, projected, since this would go into effective November,
we could write
they could jump and get it done. You might be able to get them to sign on the dotted line sooner.
It would go into effect in November, Ken, is that accurate? Not questioning Commissioner Creed.
Well, I think
passed today. We could write it.
The valuations are done November 1, so that would be the applicable date. It'd be effective 20 days after publication, but the effect of the resolution is felt November 1.
Yeah, because November 1 is that's the valuation that would be applied next year.
Mm-hmm.
So going back and visiting with Brenna and Paul, it would be hard for them to, unless there's a structure that's ready to be assessed November 1st to make the zero stick currently.
If the construction is not going to be done until next year, it's going to be set November 1 of next year.
Correct.
Right. Because it's based on construction.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Well, occupancy, I think.
And I would assume, but I hate to do that, that everything that's placed in discretionary at this point in time would be grandfathered in.
Yes.
Okay. If you're ready to take action, Commissioner Wyzorek, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion. I'm going to make two separate motions, just so you know, because I'm going to deal with the developer lots differently from industrial, to make it clear. I'll make a motion to modify our existing discretionary formula for N6-137, paren 2, paren 3, paren 4, and paren 8 to change the formula to 20% the first year, 40% the second year, 60% the third year, 80% the fourth year, and 100% of valuation in the fifth year.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor to modify our resolution to the 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 values. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I will make a motion to change our discretionary formula in regards to lands qualifying under our SDCL 10-6-144 so that the formula is 20% the first year, 40% the second year, 60% the third year, and then 100 in year 4 and 5.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
So, as way of background on that, when we did these development lots formula before, the reason we had them go to 100 in year 4 is we're trying to encourage the developer not to sit on lots. and aggressively sell the lots. And so that's why we went to that 100, and that's why it was never straight zeros. That's why I went to 50, 100, 100. But that was our discussion. We had some debate when we did this last time as to whether even encourage subdividing of land through this, but we decided, especially around the cities, it made some sense. But if they're going to develop it, we just didn't want them sitting on lots for a long period of times. We wanted it to be developing, so they're going to get into the market right away.
You see, it would be interesting with areas that have a TIF, that primarily we're talking within Sturgis and Somerset primarily with TIFs. They can qualify for the discretionary as well as the TIF. But they need encouragement to get out there and to build. And I almost wonder if the 100% should maybe come into effect just a little bit sooner to move the TIFs along.
As you well know, mentioning the fact that people in TIFs can take the discretionary formula is something that angers me greatly.
Me too.
We used to disallow people in a TIF area from using the discretionary formula, and then a legislator who I've never really forgiven changed that law without bothering to tell us, or even give us a chance to put input. Kind of snuck it through the legislature, and I think it's very counterproductive to let people double dip like that.
Well, in essence, it gives them a 25-year window.
Yeah. So anyway, but the way the state law exists, you can take the discretionary formula even if you're in a TIF zone or TIF district. I don't know. I mean,
either that or the length of TIFs, the year.
Okay, let's speak. We're getting
decreased.
Just a bit off topic. The motion was to go to 20, 40, 60, 100, 100, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you wish to change that motion to put 100 in the third year, Commissioner Creed? You mentioned that.
No, I just wanted to throw that out.
And that was fair. So if there's any more discussion to that motion, let's discuss that now. Otherwise, we'll take action. Well, it was seconded. So, yeah, Rich already seconded it. If there's no more discussion, any more discussion? No more discussion. All those in favor of going to 20, 40, 60, 100, 100 on the developer lots, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That covers that. Thank you guys for coming in today.
Mr. Chair, I assume that you would like Ken and I to work together to have a resolution to present at the next meeting?
Yes. Well, we just changed the resolution, so you'd just be changing the numbers. Wouldn't have to be presented. It's passed.
Okay. No. Very good.
Brings us down to our 10 o'clock hearings. Several people. If anyone wants to speak to anything on here, please sign in. First one up on here is Ordinance 59. The transfer of funds? Yeah, that won't take very long. So, yeah, let's go to cash, be number 2 on our hearing list. Is a resolution to transfer cash from our general fund, from our assigned funds within our general funds, over to the 201 fund. The reason we're doing this is Haynes Avenue project was approved by this board earlier this year. We felt we got a decent bid on that, and it's been a project that this board's been wanting to tackle for some time. We put the money earlier, right before the first of the year. We assigned several funds, and this was a project that was on our mind, and so we assigned these funds. And since we gave the contractor the option of either finishing it this year or next, it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get to it this year. So therefore, it's going to be a next year's project. So therefore, it's only right for the same board, in my opinion, to take care of the cash and make sure the approval's done. So we're going to budget it next year. This is not a budget. Typically, these assigned funds go to budget supplements. This is not a budget supplement. This is just transferring cash from the general fund over to the general fund. It'll have to be budgeted within our 26 budget. Any other questions, comments on this?
one comment I'd make, so everybody knows, is these funds are funds that we've been squirreling away for years and years and years to get enough to do a project. These road projects are really expensive. It's, it's going to be more than $4 million total, the project, and we once you throw all the other expenses in on it. And what's our total annual road budget? Usually about 9.
7 to 8.
7 to 8.
7.5.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not coming out of that. It has to be these funds we've been able to squirrel away over several years. So just so people know where that's coming from.
201 funds are only for highway projects, so once it gets into that 201 fund, that's where it comes. That's where that.
Thank you. That's all it can be used for. I do have to open this up for public comment as it's a hearing. I do want to mention that this should not be confused. If there's someone here for the TIF discussion, this is not the same discussion. This is just simply to put money over to fix the road. So if you're here to speak on the TIF on North Haines, you'd wait till that under planning comes up. Does anybody from the public wish to speak to this resolution 2025-25? That's convenient. Hearing no one from the public wishing to speak to this resolution, does the Commission have any more questions, comments, or action?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2025-25.
Second.
Motion is second on the floor to pass Resolution 2025-25. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Brings us to G1, Ordinance 59, which is a first reading of the proposed Ordinance 59, which is an ordinance regulating overweight and over-dimension vehicle use. I'll have the state's attorney, deputy state's attorney, speak on it first. I will have a few comments as well after the state's attorney, Ken gets done.
Thank you. The board asks that this be addressed. Particularly, it's not a matter of having weight limits, et cetera. Troy has had those in place. It's a matter of fees, basically, in this case. The structure of Ordinance 59 follows the state law fairly closely. There's some things that the state does that we can't, but the structure, the language here is basically following the state statutes and regulations. The limitations, the numbers come from Troy's end. I'm not an expert on any of that as to what makes sense. So it is what it is in front of you at this point. And this is the first read, so any comments as to language or changes is what we're here to talk about.
I will just remind everybody that ordinance changes, and this is a new ordinance, so it's either way, it takes two readings. It has to pass two readings. So it could be continued for infinity, technically, but it has to pass two readings. So therefore, this is just the first. Typically, the commission will take these readings and continue until they start to get some of the language a little bit more suitable. Troy, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. I mean, we can carry on with the reading and then go from there.
Sure. I'm going to open this up to public comments. Before I do, I'm just going to make a couple comments. I looked this over. In its current form, I'm going to acknowledge it's not workable. So there's several things that we do need to work on. I haven't been able to take the time to sit down with either Troy or Deputy State's Attorney Kleber had and kind of go over some things that I see from a rancher's point of view. For instance, I'm hearing loud and clear. I've gotten a couple emails. We need some annual permits. It's not going to work to go to single trip permit. I realize that. So with that said, today I'm going to take comments and then everybody come forward and share your concerns. But right now I've got I shared with the other commissioners. I worked on it this weekend. I've got 11 pages of red marks right now. Not a strike against you guys, but you're not a trucker or having to deal with any hauling of anything. So I would say there's a lot more to come from this. So before anyone gets too excited, we're going to continue to work this. I'm going to encourage the rest of the commission. I cannot demand that they do not take action on this today, but I'm going to encourage the rest of the commission to not take action on this today, and let's continue this conversation. But it is a hearing, and there's a lot of people here to speak to this, so I'm going to open up to public comment. I'm going to go about 3 minutes apiece on the public comment, and I'm also going to limit it to about 30 minutes total comment for public. So be cognizant of people in the audience that wishes to speak. If no one doesn't wish to speak, wishes to have something quick at the end, we'll see where we're at. So if you guys would like to come forward, I'm going to open up for public comment at this point in time. Anyone wishing to speak on this ordinance?
Mr. Chairman, I'm Ed Blair, ranch north of Sturgis here. Now, is it my understanding that you were talking about this is for permits? Do we already have an 80,000-pound limit on county roads in this county?
I'll stop the time, Mr. Blair. We already have set the 80,000 and the 7-ton. We'll go back about 2 years when I first got on the commission, and how we got to this point. When I first came on the commission, New Underwood Road was in shambles. We had a recommendation from an engineer to put that road down to 3 ton per axle, which is your pickup.
Yeah.
Again, unworkable. So I thought I discussed this with several different truck drivers that I use and just in the area, local truckers. We came up with, 80,000 could possibly work. It's a 50,000 pound load, lighter than what we typically are, 60,000 or 55 or wherever we're at now. But it could work for most of my needs. Talked to a few farmers, some gravel trucks, and they said, wait a second. We're typically around 120, but we're 5 ton per axle.
Yeah.
So we went to the 7 ton per axle at that time. Fast forward about 2 years, we got to this spring, and we're looking at what to do to New Underwood Road because it was not improving. It was actually getting much worse, as well as many roads, Elkvale included. Most of our paved roads were getting worse. So it wasn't working at that. We took comments. I can't recall if that was in March, April, May, but it was this spring, and we decided to set it 7 ton plus the 80,000. We're allowing a permit right now. We don't have a very good system. I'll acknowledge that. It's a headache for Troy and his guys out at the highway shop. So what we need to do now is figure out a permit system to keep us on the road, is what we need to do now. Because we have the weight limit. We just need to figure out how to make it so no one's getting fined.
So is that on all county roads?
The motion, the action taken was on all county roads simply because we could not figure out how to sort that out. With that said, it seemed easy at the time. We were going to list all paved roads, but then we got to thinking, well, what do you do with Fort Meade Way? What do you do with some of these heavier travel roads? So that it was easier to say all roads. So acknowledge that it's a little bit tough to enforce and authorize that, but at the same time, we just put the weight limit on there. Now the job is to figure out how to get this workable. So I'll let you go back to your time.
Well, I don't know. I've been out of compliance for a long time then. But you take a look at, and this is coming out of the South Dakota handbook, that a 7-axle semi-trailer, you can haul 97,000 on that, which is 6.97 ton per axle. So at that rate, the 7 ton, I'm under that. You look at a 5-axle trailer, I'm assuming that you're 80,000 pounds. That's 8.12 ton. So you're over your 7 ton on your 5-axle semi-trailer. The economics of this is, let's say, normally I'll feed over 1,000 steers at Vale, the backgrounding yard. I take those steers out to Enning, north of Enning, to summer them. At the 80,000 pound, we're talking 20 loads. We look at 96,000, which I normally haul, we're looking at 14 loads. So you figure the economics of that into the equation. The second item, you're talking about any vehicle operating on Meade County Highway exceeding width limits, according to South Dakota Coded Law 3222-3, which says that you cannot, which says anything over 102 inches is over width. My hay trailer is 11.6, all hay on. You're looking at a permit per trip. I move between 2,000 and 3,000 bales a year on the county roads. I mean, how?
Have you applied for a permit?
Not yet.
Well, they're not that hard. It's a single piece of paper, and I can grant it for about...
Let's let Mr. Blair finish. He's got about 15, 20 seconds, so.
Anyway, okay. With that, I mean, I should ask what time of day I can get that permit.
During business hours, it would be, the sooner, the more time. So obviously, it's better for us, but yes, I understand last minute things happen.
So I buy a load of hay, eastern South Dakota, call up the guy, he's coming out, and I said, oh, by the way, did you get your Meade County permit for $25 so that you can drop that hay off in my yard?
That's going to be your time, Mr. Blair. And
Yeah,
we'll try to address some of these in a bit. So anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning. Rodney Gray. I'm with Western Construction. I'm also a Meade County resident. Under what's written here, obviously, I mean, you've already said that you're not going to, or you're hoping not to take action on this. As far as a permit or fees, I guess I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I need something more workable than a single trip permit. Because we don't, that could be up to 30 phone calls a day to Troy or to whoever's handling that, which is going to, at a certain point, you're going to have to hire more people to just facilitate the permits. And sometimes, things need to be moved on the weekends. And, there's some last minute stuff that's going to happen that, we're going to, with the South Dakota permitting system, I mean, we can get a hold of them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can get permits, whether it's online or whether it's through a phone call. But I don't think that Meade County has anything in place to handle anything like that at this point. So, I mean, I guess we would just look at, asking that we could do some sort of an annual permit, figure out some way to do that off of the weights. The 80,000 pound. Similar to what Mr. Blair was just talking about, I mean, we operate a gravel pit on New Underwood Road, and we take out, X number of tons a year, and we can work under whatever you guys want to set forth, but it is going to be a lot more truckloads that are going to be going across that road at higher axle weight limits than if we can do larger units that are less weight per axle. So I guess that's all I would ask, is that we really put some consideration into this before we make a motion on it, and follow along with what the state has in the federal bridge laws. I mean, we can never surpass the federal bridge law without getting a special permit, but they set forth quite a few standards in there that are somewhat redundant if you're going to go through this direction.
Thank you, Mr. Gray. Anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning, Kai Oberlander. We farm out in Meade County. We agreed last year to the 80,000 or the 7-ton rule on the New Underwood Road, which is, if you look at it, it's totally different. They're not even the same. You can't go 80,000 and 7-ton in the same rule because one's a 8-ton an axle, one's a 7-ton an axle. So that's not, the same apples there. So what we come to agreement, everybody'd stay under 7-ton, and it's been working pretty good. Because there is nowhere for us to deliver in Meade County, so if we load from Meade County rules, and then you get to Pennington County, interstate, you're several tons under for long distances. So that's a big problem. I think if we can do annual permits according to what we haul under, South Dakota state law, would be really easy, and that would be workable. So if we can look at that, that would be pretty awesome for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Oberlander. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning, everybody. Chairman, board members. I guess I haven't had a lot of time to do a lot of research
Mark, could
on...
you identify yourself?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Brook, Meade County resident, farmer rancher, out in Bear Butte Creek area. I guess one of my first questions is, whenever a person's or a group's coming up with an ordinance or new rule, what is the problem we're trying to fix, if I could ask?
I guess I'll take that. The problem we're trying to fix currently is that we set a weight limit that is low on our roads. So, which gives all of us, if we need to move livestock, grain, gravel, whatever, gives us an issue that we can't hardly meet. So we need to come up with some rules to fix so that we can travel on that road. The problem before was our infrastructure was falling apart. So we had to set some of these weight limits at a fairly low limit. Like I said, we didn't go near as low as the engineer recommended. On New Underwood Road, they're still trying to get us to go to 3 ton per axle. So that was the first problem. We set our weight limit. Now we did that knowing we had an issue that is going to be an impossible task to meet. So now we've got a problem to try to develop rules so that I can haul stuff down the road. You can haul stuff down the road.
Sure.
So that's what we're trying to iron out.
Okay, so I think I have a feeling a lot of this has to do with New Underwood Road, and of course it's been a problem for probably a couple of decades now. It just feels like we're trying to put something together that creates another bureaucracy that I don't know if something else could fix. For instance, if it's damage to roads, there probably does, maybe there needs to, obviously you already have a weight limit, but if it's a per axle tax that has to change, and none of us like taxes and none of us want to pay any more, but if that's what it takes to help get more revenue to fix, maybe we could go that direction. This reminds me of something, and I know you said the current version isn't going to be workable, but it reminds me of years ago, just here in Sturgis, we had a rule that anybody that hangs a banner up has to go through the city and get a permit, and it was free, of course, and everything, but the bureaucracy that went along with it, I don't think it lasted 6 months because, every time you put a banner up for a band for the weekend, you'd have to call the city, and pretty soon it was unworkable. I'm hoping there's maybe a simpler answer to this whole problem that we might have. And I guess maybe my other question was, or what have other counties done, or and again, forgive me, I didn't get to do any research into that. Have other counties done a similar thing in order to manage their roads? When it comes to over width down here, and again, I know this isn't going to be the end version, but it appears to me that there's an exemption for stack movers and so on, but the reality is that nearly every round baler that's out there right now, every swather, anything with duals on it's going to be over width on a county road. And obviously there has to be some sort of exemption to that when people are moving between fields and so on. And so the over width I can see is going to be another issue. I'm happy to hear if something does happen, there could be a possibility of annual permits.
You're coming up on your time, Mr. Brook. Okay. I allowed you more since I spoke during.
Understood. I just hope we can come up with something simple that can fix the problem and not create another, bureaucracy.
Thank you, Mr. Brook. Anybody else wish to speak?
Through the chair. Riley Kammer, Southern Meade County. I'm not against a permit. I'd really like to see an annual permit if we're going to do that. I do have some questions because we live right on Elkvale Road, which is perhaps the newest and nicest highway in the county. And I guess I've seen it, I've witnessed it firsthand, the deterioration of it. And you can't necessarily see it in a car, but you get a truck or a tractor and you can see it. And that damage was caused by the hundreds and hundreds of loads of gravel that went by our place to the shooting range. And these were doubles. They were the serpentine trucks that haul 160 or 180,000. And I know those guys were overweight because you could see the gravel hop heaped up on the hopper bottoms. Were they running on permits? Because if this 80,000 pound went in 2 years ago, those guys were all overweight, and they're the ones that did the damage to the road. Were they permitted? Were they fined? Because according to this, we're still liable for the damages to the highway, and that cost millions and millions of dollars. That first question. Does anybody know the answer to that?
To clarify, the 80,000 just went in here recently.
It was recent.
It was the 7-ton per axle that we implemented, but that was only on New Underwood Road at the time.
Okay.
But otherwise, the roads had to follow what the state had.
Kind of a caveat to that, Riley. The reason that we went for all of our roads was that is one of the reasons. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're following the rules, and they're under their 8 tons an axle or 7 tons an axle on those big trucks, we don't have scales, right? So we have to have the highway patrol go out and stop them. We have had a few of those cases, few and far between. We did see, I think we had 160-something thousand pound truck the other day on Elk Creek, I believe. So, it's just, that's one of the reasons that we went through the whole county was because of Elkvale, Antelope Creek, all of those roads are getting.
Very good. Thank you for that. Question 2 is, how is this going to be enforced? As of last week now, we're a 7-ton axle load limit right by our place. They're running gravel trucks, they're running cement trucks by, and I guarantee they are not under that weight. How does the superintendent and the commission intend to enforce this if we're actually going to put teeth into that?
I guess I can answer. We can acknowledge that enforcement's an issue. We have begged, we've pleaded with the state to come out with scales, particularly on New Underwood Road and on Elkvale. Especially, we did catch 1 or 2 during the incident you were referring to. We're at their mercy right now. The set of scales worth looking into, possibly. Also, there's additional staff that would require, additional times we'd have to put their heads together and see if that'd be worthwhile. Most of that money goes to state, so we're kind of in a rock and hard place. So we can acknowledge enforcement's going to be an issue. But this is trying to give us the ability to do some of those things and stop some of those trucks as well.
Perfect.
In fact, I think that this was probably the first year that I can recall the state actually even wrote any weight tickets, unless some of the rest of you can remember. We ask every year, we pass a request to the state because the Highway Patrol has the scales. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the first time. And who knows, they may be a little bit reluctant to find themselves.
So your time, Mr. Kammer.
Am I up?
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead. You're getting about 20 seconds left, though.
Okay. The simple fact is that those trucks are doing millions of dollars to damage to our county roads, and $25 permits are not going to cover anything unless we put some meat into this and actually enforce it. It's kind of a waste of time. There are, one more comment, if you look at state codified law, there are exceptions for the people in the audience that over-width ag products are exempt from this as long as they're following the safety protocols.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do a follow-up with Troy. Did we not have an agreement with GF&P if they wreck that road, they're going to have to fix it?
Oh, yeah, with the current agreement, yeah, absolutely.
And so, have you been has anyone been in contact with them to notify them that they're going to be getting a big bill?
Well, I mean, there's been damages done to Elk Vale. Can we say it's the freeze-thaw cycle, or is it the trucks? How do you go about proving that one? I mean, yeah, they're heavy trucks, but they did it legally. Now that we put the weight limit into effect of the 80,000 gross, can I say that that stopped all trucks? No, it hasn't. There are trucks every day I see go by there. I've seen cops out there pulling them over too. So I mean, I know it's on the radar. Is it a perfect scenario? There's no one size fits all, I don't believe, but yeah, it's a tough situation. But I can't say that the Game Fish and Parks is responsible for any damages that have been done on there.
Let's go back to public testimony. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kammer.
you for the time.
Mr. Chairman, Matthew Kammer, Meade County resident, rancher, and talking about the game fishing parks, they were not legal. They were caught the very last week that they were running. It was all done while your roads were in the springtime under load limits. You guys sat there and watched them destroy that road. 5 trucks a day, 5-6 loads a day. They were heaped to the top, and you only catch 2 of them. Tell me that they didn't destroy that road and it was possibly frost. Go talk to some truckers that drive it.
I know that they're
exactly what happened. And you guys watched them do it. You brag about $400,000 they give you to re-gravel it and rebuild it. You should have fined them $800,000 for the overweight trucks. You guys knew it was happening. This is not the farmer and ranchers that have caused this. They have come in compliance with their trucks, putting axles on them to be in compliance, having scales on their grain carts to know what their weights are. Now to hammer them with an 80,000-pound limit when they have put their trucks up to where they're supposed to be at 97,000, now you got 10,000 weights of axles that are dead weight to them because they've modified their trucks with pushers and tags and triples. The guys that are doing the damage are the ones that are doing all this new developments that you guys keep letting come into our county. You see these centipedes running up and down the road. I don't care what their amount of axles are. They do a hell of a lot more damage than another truck does. I don't mean this in a vulgar way, but we need to quit prostituting Meade County for Pennington County's benefit. And that's where most of these people are coming from, or out of state even, that are building, and all the traffic on the roads is the cause of this. The word no needs to be used a little more often. Meade County never used to change a section line. Since you got in bed with the game fish and parks, it looks like it's happening more and more. This is not a farm and rancher. We built this county with our tax dollars because we've been here for 100 years. Quit putting the burden on the people that put the taxes in your pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Any other comments?
So I was just can I get a clarification? Game Fish and Parks, are these Game Fish and Parks vehicles or the contractors?
Contractor.
Okay, so then that project done or is it still ongoing?
Oh, it's still ongoing.
Can we have a conversation with the contractor and maybe with Game Fish and Parks about trucks? And maybe that call needs to be made if it hasn't been. So.
Yeah, I mean, the heavy hauling stuff, the gravel that was brought in, and that is all been completed with the Game Fish and Parks. I mean, now they have contractors doing landscaping and building contractors, which doesn't really pertain to this.
Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning. Chris Grubel, rancher, farmer out east on Alkali. This affects us quite a bit. We haul cattle out in the county with our trucks, and we haul our grain to Rapid City. We use the Elkvale Road quite a bit. We also haul our own cattle to Nebraska and Wyoming to feedlots, and we can haul 86,000 according to the state. And it's really hard to haul a part of a load 300 miles. We kind of shoot from the hip when it decides where we're going to haul something or where we're going to haul it. We put up a lot of silage, and some of our trucks only have a single axle. They're sure going to be at that 7-ton load limit or more. An annual permit per truck would really help in this situation. And if we could, be able to haul a legal load out, and I see you have good provisions in here, that the 7 tons per axle is a little hard for us. Either that or we're going to have to spend some money and modify our trucks to have an extra axle under them. But it just adds weight to the vehicle too, and it adds a lot of loads for us. It seems like the main problem is the road infrastructure, and I suppose that needs to be addressed at some point to bring the roads up to where they could meet an 8-ton per axle load. I was wondering if there's a budget for like the New Underwood Road and some of these heavier traveled roads. Do they have a special allocation to them?
So we have around a $7 million highway budget that covers 1,100 miles of roads. And then half of that's probably, we probably have $1 million in staff out there, so we really don't have a lot to build roads with. We crush $600,000 of gravel every year. We put $600,000 worth of mag on every year. We buy a road grader. We've got 11 road graders that we try to keep running. They're about 10 years old by the time we trade those out. So, there's just not a ton of money in there. And then Haynes is we have essentially a really good fancy patch on that one for $3 million. The reconstruction of New Underwood Road, the estimate's about $70 million. So, pretty tough when we have $13 million of property taxes coming in.
Next year, this year we only had 12.1.
12.1.
So yeah, I mean it's a huge challenge. But you're right, the infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges, but not the money.
Well, that seems to be the problem. I mean, it's just that deal. Just an example, the government back in the early 60s built the Alkali Road that's paved, and of course they built it to withstand, hauling the Titan II missiles and all the stuff for that. And they've spent, is a lot better underneath, I guess.
But I just was wondering, we sure want to work with the county and work with everybody. We drive these roads, you know, and we don't all have a 1-ton four-wheel drive pickup. My wife has her Suburban she drives, and she would like a little nicer road sometimes to drive on. But in order to do that, we just all need to work together. But boy, an annual permit, we wouldn't have to bother these guys all the time, and with the understanding, you know, that we do this within reason. If we do something stupid, we deserve to. I wasn't aware, I guess, that fines all don't go towards road reconstruction. They go somewhere else. Okay. Well, that's our main concern, and everybody I've talked to, that's their main concern also. So.
You know, all kinds of fines go to the state. You know, you get picked up for DUI, whatever it is, speeding, all that goes to the state. But your county taxpayer is the one paying to house a guy in jail, paying for the court attorney, paying for the cost of the judge in the courtroom, and the state just thinks counties can raise money out of the air.
Thank you, Mr. Grubel.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else wish to speak? He's going to have a race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doris Lowing, live out on Alkali. I comment with all of the other ranchers ahead of me, but one thing in consideration, what happens when you buy a load of cattle from Fort Pierre and you load the semi, and what do you do with the cattle when you get to the Meade County roads? Same way with hay. When we bring hay in, you know, you might be bringing 15, 20 loads in. What do you do when it's not your truck, and how do we permit those? So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Lowing. Anybody else wish to speak?
Hi, Commission. Jeff Bennett, business owner in Elk Creek Road. I've worked with Troy many a times on getting permits for our trucks when we're hauling heavy. Majority of the time it's heavy equipment, we're way overweight. And then I call Troy, he tells me which way to go, so that way we do the least amount of damage. But the 80,000 pound limit for a normal truck, that's where it's really hurting. Because everyone has set their trucks up for the 7-ton per axles. So that's why we have usually 8 axles on the ground. So therefore it makes it less damage to the road. Haynes Avenue was not caused by a truck. It was caused by that GWC asphalt company that you hired to work on it a few years ago. Opened it up right before 6 inches of rain that we got. And it really tore Haynes Avenue apart. That's why we have what we have now. Elk Creek Road, it got paved 10 years ago. I actually helped haul the asphalt on it. But we have not touched it since then. That's part of it too, is the fact that we're not doing maintenance on these assholes. The Underwood Road, in my opinion, a lot of the damage was done by over-the-road trucks, not the local trucks. That's part of the problem too. I don't know how we could get it done to get the over-the-road trucks to stop. That's a fine line. Unfortunately, I don't know what else to do there. But Troy has been good to work with on these permits, but if we could do an annual permit for the locals, that would be ideal. But I'm not, the overweight stuff, I totally get doing it per load. That's the way it should be. But the 80,000 pound limit, that's really low. Because the 7-ton, you do the math, 7 axles, 8 axles. I mean, if you're that 90 to 100, you're still legal.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak?
Good morning. My name's Cody Lind, Meade County resident, business owner. Once again, reiterating, I'm in favor of the annual permit system, and the 7-ton is workable for the equipment most of us have set up. I do ask the commission to maybe talk or visit with the state about what they have in place for permitting annual permits. I think it might be a good guide for you guys setting up a system for the county. I guess another big concern, especially coming on fall, a lot of guys are going to be shipping calves, whatnot, get a lot out of trucks from out of the area. Going to get a lot of dollars in signage at the county line. What are these guys going to do when they show up midnight on a weekend? So there's just a lot of gray areas to look at, I guess. But the annual permits, I think, would help a lot of people in general and keep the phones from ringing nonstop at the highway department. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lind. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody else wish to speak? Seeing nobody else wishing to speak, I'm going to close public comment on this discussion. I'm just going to recap here, and I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. As I said, I've got about 11 pages of rewrite on this that I intend to work on. The bridge formula is a very important guide I think we can look at, which works for all trucks, and that could be a way we could base these permits off of. The problem is you can't also be subjective, so we're going to have something standard, so which that bridge formula does that very well. Annual permit, I think that's probably been the biggest thing stressed to us today, was trying to get to an annual permit. There is, it was mentioned about an ag exemption, and that is true. The state does grant an ag exemption, and in my rewrite, I putting some of that in there. We'll see how far the state allows us to go on some of that as well. So we do have our work cut out for us. Does anybody else have any more comments to this?
Yeah, so I agree 100%. The idea is not to hinder the local community, but we all have a road to drive on. So, we set the limits at the 80,000 and 7 tons. We have people that are, Western with 6.5 tons on an axle, but they're maybe 130,000 pounds. So, that when we run down those roads, there's still that impact. There's an impact to gravel roads. There's an impact to asphalt roads. But yeah, ultimately the guys hauling hay, the guys hauling cows, the ranchers that are actually paying out there in the fields. We're not really trying to hinder everybody's abilities there. It's just about trying to come up with a system. If we have something that affects everybody, with those over-the-road trucks that are coming through North Dakota, we have an opportunity to stop them a little bit easier, and hopefully catch some of those as well. So we have started looking at scales and whether or not that's an option. I know the sheriff's pulled thin, and he's done a fantastic job of trying to mitigate some of the issues. So yeah, I like the annual permit process, and it would be, I think one of the options that Gary had thrown in the next version is maybe a scenario of what you have for your truck and what you have for your trailer, or a combination of the worst case for you. So I think, we're thinking about some of those things to make it a little bit easier to swallow. So.
But I guess I do want to make one other point. The easiest thing to do would be not look into the future here, and it's, as was mentioned, we take in $12 million in property taxes, and it was mentioned, it's always been my goal since I've been on the commission, was to improve the infrastructure, and I don't think there's a commissioner up here that would think otherwise. New Underwood Road, we put $1 million into that this year, which is no small ask when you think of that $12 million. That's 1/12 of all taxes collected went into that road this year. And that wasn't even a fix. That was just to get it back to where it was safe to drive. So we're playing catch up on our infrastructure, and some of it is, I will acknowledge, it was brought up, some of the development that's coming in and stuff like that. There's no doubt about that. We're seeing people move in all over. Ellsworth expansion's not going to help. So the easiest thing to do is say heck with it. let's just let the roads go where they go and stop. But that's not responsible. We have to take these roads, and many of them were falling apart. So I don't regret setting that weight limit or voting to set that weight limit. Now the next easy thing to do with that weight limit would say the heck with it. Let's not permit this. Let's just go on and let's just fine everybody. Again, that's not responsible. So we have to find a solution now, and it's going to take some time to get through this. We're not out. I farm and ranch for a living. That's how I make my living, and this will affect me. So I'm certainly not out to get anybody, and neither is anybody on this commission. We're trying to figure out a way to work so these trucks can keep moving up and down the road. That's the basis. Like I said, $12 million is tough. We got $7 million. We get some wheel tax, about $2.5 million. It's not much that's going to this infrastructure. We've hauled over about 3,500 loads of gravel this year. Is that correct, Troy?
Yep.
Which sounds like a lot, but that's about 50 miles. We got 1,200 miles to get over. So I'm not trying to make excuses, but it's an undaunting task when you look at the big picture. So we do have our work cut out for us. I think it's responsible to look at a permit system. It affects some people more than others. But with that said, in order to kind of keep our infrastructure where it's at or improve it, we're going to have to do something because we're seeing more and more and more trucks all the time, not just locals. So we've got to figure out something, in my opinion. Is there any more comments from the commission before I take action?
I have one more comment. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in. I appreciate everybody caring. Everybody puts axles under their trucks. They're trying to get that 7 tons. That's work. It costs money, and we appreciate it in the county. So we all live here, and we all try to get through. So I'd like to thank everybody for that.
With that, do I have action? If not, I will just, in fact, I usually don't do this as chair. I'm just going to jump in and move to continue this hearing to our next meeting.
I think if you do that, you should set a time, since it's technically a public hearing.
Typically, our hearings are at 10 o'clock, so yes, thank you. That would be appropriate.
With the number of changes you're talking about, could we maybe do not the next meeting, but the meeting after?
That would be fine. In fact, we could even look at kicking this off until after budget as well, if that's appropriate, if that's sufficient with the rest of the commission, which would be our first meeting in October.
I just don't think I can
certainly
accomplish the changes you're talking
certainly, and I think there's some, it would be worthwhile for all of us to sit down with some people in the audience. So let's kick it to the first meeting in October at 10 o'clock.
Second it.
Motion is second on the floor to continue this hearing till, what's the date on that, Rhea? October 14th at 10 o'clock. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. In the meantime, I just request that have some patience. Call us, email us. Over half of us do not look at Facebook, so it doesn't do you any good to badmouth us on Facebook. I'd prefer a phone call or an email, or we'll get through this. Also, Troy and I have talked. I'm going to try to be as lenient as we can on these permits. We acknowledge that what you guys are licensed for. He's going to take that into consideration. We're getting on harvest and fall run, so we need to keep you guys moving. So I hope and Troy will take all that into consideration. He told me over the phone he was going to, but also be patient with him. This is a new thing. So with that, let's take a break, 10-15 minute break, and we'll get back to the meeting. order. Brings us down to H, planning. First, and the planning director. Well, liaison could give the monthly report. Till she gets here.
Excuse me. A long day yesterday. We started at 1 and went to a little after 6. Number of variances, plats. We went through a couple of the TIFs that are up for I think one of them was up for just discussion today. We did not advance it. We continued it to the next meeting. So that will be heard on the 8th again. Planning next time is going to be on the 8th because of the holiday, September.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is still morning. Ms. Vig.
Yes, sir.
Identify yourself.
Tanya Vig, Planning Director.
Talbot briefed us on what happened yesterday. Do you have anything else to add on your report or anything?
Building permits and licenses are still up. We're up to 115 between the two. We did 78 inspections. Got a busy July meeting, and Talbot updated you on the TIFs. That's about all.
Yeah, well, the AR Ranch TIF was voted down by planning. The county TIF for Haynes was continued to the next meeting. It was on our agenda today, I think, but there won't be any action on it today. So we had made arrangements for the group we had hired to kind of lay the TIF information out to be here today. So he's just going to come give information and answer any questions that people might have here today. But we'll do that a little bit later.
Hey, any other questions for the planning and the monthly report? If not, we'll move down to the H2, which is a variance request. On-premise sign size. Anyone here, right? You guys would like to come forward and explain what you'd like to do?
Yes. Hey, good morning. Morning.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep. Go ahead.
We're just asking for a variance to put up an on-site premise sign for our businesses.
Go to the packet, Rhea.
In the way I understand it, you're asking to build it to 20 feet, 20 linear feet, and our ordinance says 18. Is that correct, Ms. Vig?
Yes. So the variance is for two variances. One is for the size, and one is the height off the ground. So it will be a double-sided illuminated on-premise sign measuring 12 foot by 40 foot, which is 480 square feet, and 20 foot above the ground, and it will be 30 foot from I-90 right-of-way. I have talked to Dan Cooper, South Dakota DOT. He does approve the project. So we are asking for those two variances. The sign is within the packet, the picture of it in the installation. That's what it shall look like.
Any other questions, comments?
I have several. Yep. First, I got to say, I find the packet wholly inadequate. When I look under the variance request variance by commissioners, there's no explanation of what our requirements are. There's no explanations of the differentiation. So we come in and they say, so I have to go into the ordinance and look at it. But as I read the ordinance, at max, their square footage is 100, based on the lineal feet, if I'm doing that correctly. Would you agree with that? Do you agree with that calculation?
Off of the calculation sign, yes.
On figure 1, on 5.02A or 5.01A. Okay, and their max height of the top of the sign is 18 feet from the road surface. I have no idea how this compares to road surface because nobody gives me those numbers. Nobody. Now, I think the sign's way too big. I'm going to vote against it just because I don't think we need those big of signs out there. But even if I thought the sign would have some capacity, I would never vote for it just because the packet doesn't tell me anything about the variance I'm trying to give here. It needs to be complete. The application has a section that says request variance by commissioners. It's just blank. So I don't see how I can grant variances when the packet doesn't tell me what the ordinance requires and what the differentiation is, and I don't have enough information that I can even calculate those numbers. I had to go to your plat to calculate the square footage formula and do it myself. Now, I don't think it's not planning's role to fill in all that information. It's really your guys' role to look at it now, but I know there's a cooperation there. But it needs to be, the applicant has to have that responsibility to lay it out. Throwing it on planning and just saying, can we get a variance? And frankly, planning probably should have told you go back and resubmit your variance to ask for all this information. But, I mean, you're asking for a sign more than 4 times greater than what's allowed. You're asking for a sign more than double, it looks like to me, the height than what's allowed. I don't know of a single lighted sign within that area that even comes close to that size. Can you give me one?
Well, there are several signs.
Give me one that's that big, that sits there, that's independent, not on the side of a building.
And we're happy to provide any information you guys need and calculate it out.
Tell me the signs. What are the signs in that area?
I'd have to do some more research on that.
Well, I drive it every day. You have a business out there. Can you tell me the signs that this is comparable to in that area?
Not right now.
I don't know the one.
I know Copper Top has a sign just off the Deerview exit that's comparable, but that's just one that comes to mind. I haven't really done I guess my due diligence to go and compare what our sign would look like to other people.
This is a big sign.
Right. I mean, that's kind of our goal. You know, we want it to be seen and we want it to represent our business well, and that's kind of our intention.
Yeah, and it's up there quite a way. I mean, it's mini billboard. I mean, there's billboards in that area that are smaller than this sign.
And there's many more that are much larger too.
That have been grandfathered
we're trying to
in.
kind of find a happy medium, you know.
Yeah,
I thought that was a reasonable size. So.
Well, but how do I mean, did you know it's more than 4 times the allowable size? Did you know that before I said that today?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So, look, you're probably catching more of my wrath because I'm just tired of getting variance requests where I don't have any idea what the variance is.
Well, and we're just going through the process because that's what we have to do, right? I mean, we're trying to do it correctly. So
I certainly agree, and I do appreciate that you didn't throw it up and then we'd have to come make you tear it down, which we've had to do before.
Right. It's not our intention ever in
right,
building.
Right. I appreciate you showing up. Like I said, I apologize. You probably catch some of my wrath because I just think I'm kind of tired of getting variances. I have no idea what the variance request is. Number one. Number two, it's really on you guys to lay that out, not the planning office. Number three, I think your sign's way too big. I don't know of another sign in that area that comes close to it, especially lighted. You know, the wires are us and the plumbing are us. They have some signage. It's on the building, a lot different than putting a free sign out there.
Right, and if we had a building that big to put it on, you know, that'd be different too,
Yep.
right?
And you're set back a little further from the interstate.
Absolutely.
Understand that, so I understand why you'd want a sign out there. But, you know, this is, we start letting you do it, we'll have 20 of them in there. And I'm just going to tell you, from being in that valley for the last 30-odd years, signage is a big frustration to a lot of people out there, and size of it. And they've been, I know Piedmont actually is basically, this is way over what Piedmont would allow, which is right down. And Piedmont's actually been cutting back on even the with full-throated support of the people on the billboards. So, I just think it's too big of an ask for me, you know. And I can't even tell you, like I said, based on the information you have, I can't even tell you how much of a variance you need on that height. Because the height, as I read the ordinance, is taken from the road surface. I don't see where the road surface information's in here anywhere. So I don't know whether you're going to be 30 feet over the road, by when you put your sign in? What's the top of your sign going to be, 40 some feet? Is it going to be 30,
20.
20 up, well, yeah, but.
20 from the ground surface.
20, that's when your sign starts.
No, that's the top of the sign.
But you're asking from the road surface to grade where the sign starts. Is that what you're asking?
That's what
that difference.
That's what the ordinance says. And then, okay, so because you've got it as
You're 20 feet from grade.
20 feet at top, 40 feet across. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we should have that picture up.
Yes, it's page 6.
Yeah, Ordinance 24, Article 502A.
Right. And the top is 18 feet from top of road. So your sign actually might be heights compliant based on top of the road, because I think your lot sits a little lower than the actual road surface.
Yeah, I could confirm that. But.
Right. So I'm not sure you even need the variance there, but the size, I think, like I said.
For me,
I had a long day yesterday.
So I do want to add, though, that Waterworks does have a sign that's pretty much exactly the same size as that. It's half mile south of our location, just off of the right-of-way. Similar, it's two-sided. It might not be illuminated, but it is the same size. We went out and looked at it. That's why we came up with this particular size. It was similar to ones that were out there. I started this by applying with Tanya Vig for a billboard, and she, after a week or two of discussion, she decided that it was something that needed to be an on-premise sign and go for a variance. So we've done a couple of different goes at this sign. So, I mean, the variance thing was changed just the last couple weeks. We were trying to do a billboard, and she said that it's an on-premise sign and we need to go for a variance. That's why the variance was, that's why we went the way we did.
Fair enough. Tanya, do you know whether Waterworks has a billboard? Is it a billboard sign, or?
I don't know. There's hardly any signs within that have even been permitted in Meade County. The ones that do get permitted are the complaints I get from the DOT for people not doing them.
Right.
So this is one of the very few I have that actually comes in correctly. So you could drive up and down I-9 corridor or wherever and probably come up with 99% of the signs are illegal. So
maybe that's our next step.
So I appreciate these guys coming in. I read the ordinance that this is how it was done. The ordinance is very loose and hard to interpret. It took us forever to realize it was a billboard on premise, the way stuff is written. The ordinance is very unclear on what to do. In my opinion, it takes us a long time to work through them.
If this were a sign advertising other businesses, that would make it a billboard.
Yes, that's
correct. If you had a sign that was on somebody else's property, that would have to make a billboard. This falls under on-premise sign because it only advertises your business
on his property.
On your property.
Yes.
That's the distinction I understand the ordinance makes.
Any other questions, comments from the commission?
I do have a question. So the paperwork, Tanya, on page, I think it's 8, was that filled out by you, client?
Right here. Yep, I did.
So, to go back to what Talbot said, I don't know what the request for the variance is. I mean, it doesn't tell me what you're requesting.
If you go to page 7, does it not? The sign information, that's what the request was for.
But I have no idea what the variance request.
Yeah, what is the variance request I would say would be where you're requesting to go from 64 square feet to 480 square feet. Is that the right numbers? I don't know if that's right.
It's actually, if you look at the way I read the ordinance, and that's where I started. If you look, there's a formula under 5.01B, everything or 2, that has to do with your frontage. And I had to take the frontage off. When I take the frontage off their map, then there's a sliding formula, because the larger your frontage on the interstate, the larger your sign can be. And so the way my calculation is, it's about 100 is what they could do without a variance. So that's where it's 4 times bigger than what they would generally be allowed. So again, I appreciate these guys coming in. I don't.
And is that a directional space? Like, does it matter if it's pointing north and south, east and west? That calculation.
Sure, I track you what you mean by directional.
Parallel
what
to the
direction?
interstate or perpendicular to the interstate?
So if you read the ordinance, it talks about setback from on a state highway. Got under section 5.02 figure 1. It's allowable sign area off of a state highway, and it has allowable sign area with lineal frontage footage, which I interpret to be, how wide your lot is in comparison to, which is about 350 feet. And so if you look at the scale, that gets you to about 100 square feet. Like a 10 by 10. So that's where I come up with, okay, you're actually looking for even if you're at 1,000 under our ordinance as it exists, if you had 1,000 frontage, you wouldn't quite get to 300 square feet. So you're even over that. Now,
since I own the adjoining lot, would that calculation take into considering the adjoining lot to the north as well?
Is that part of the same business, or?
Yeah, I mean, I own
currently,
it.
yeah. Well, yeah. The difficulty being then is part of the reason you do that is, and when you use how much, because then I know I'm not going to get a sign right next to it that's just as big.
Yeah.
So like if you sell that lot next to you, and the guy I want a 500 square foot or 480 foot square sign. Now I got two of them back to back. So when they're going along highways, a lot of like their signage, the reason their signage size changes how big your lot is because I know if I let you have an on sign and for 350 feet, I'm not going to have another one 10 feet down or 100 feet down.
Sure.
And so when you start then to variance them, then, if you sell that, the guy's probably going to want a sign. And so what sign do we let him have? And that's why you'll see, and this is the same with billboards, there has to be space differential on the billboards. You can only put many billboards ever so often. The only reason we got a ton of them between here and Piedmont is the railroad property is exempt, so they packed a bunch of them in on the railroad property because under federal law controls the railroad.
Yep.
So, so that's why when I'm looking at this, if you had a much bigger lot, but what's the business guy going to do next to you then? It's like I said,
I'd like that to be taken into consideration, because
your location of your sign though is almost immediately adjacent to that lot.
No, I'm talking about the 10 acres to the north.
I understand that, but then you've located it in fairly close to that lot line. It looks like to me.
Oh, yeah, to the southern lot. Yeah. What is it? 5D.
Yeah. So if you want us to count that, generally I wouldn't count that because it's another lot. And then, so the other issue you get when you want these bigger signs and they're right next to somebody else's property line is you then have a problem where you're squeezing that guy's location for signs too. 'Cause now he's gonna have
You're referring to 5C, correct?
Yeah, 5C, because you're 5B. That's your property right now, correct?
Right. And I also own Lot 4.
And 4 and 5A.
5A, 5B, and Lot 4. Currently what I own.
Yeah, but somebody else is going to want to put signs on those someday. I'm talking about 5C from the standpoint of if you own 5C?
Sure. No, not anymore.
Okay, well, so I don't know what signs he going to want.
Yeah, understood.
And you're close to his lot line. So I mean,
it just made the most sense. That's the most usable area for the sign.
Yeah. Yeah, it's path of least resistance, what works best for you guys, I understand. But I'll tell you the same thing I tell everybody in planning. Just because it works easy for you doesn't mean it's going to be beneficial for the entire region or it's going to work good when the neighbor comes in. So, I don't like the size. I don't like that I don't have good information. I would like to reiterate, I appreciate you coming in to try to talk about it because tell you the first thing when your sign goes up, whether it's even once it's built, even if permitted, first thing Tanya's going to get is a call from Piedmont, probably from somebody at Piedmont about it. So.
Well, hopefully not, because we'll make it look nice, beautiful.
Yeah, well, we need to live in the area a little longer. But so I think there's a lot going on in that area. Last thing I want to do is start putting up oversized signs on every acre lot.
Any other questions,
My
comments
position.
from the commission?
So I think that the request is missing some information, like the heights from the height 3 variance. I don't know that you're going to need it, kind of with Talbot on that one. The location of it, I'm a little bit hesitant just because it's close to the other guy's property, but I get the location and the reasoning for it. And I think Talbot brought up a good point about the signs in the area that are similar in size, but are those maybe classified as billboards then, and probably not as on-premise signs?
Yeah, because I'm not sure there's a waterworks sign from you guys to the south. That's a billboard. That's not on his premise. Because the waterworks guy, he's got stuff on his building, but that's not a freestanding sign, which is different. So it's not comparable to me because that's a billboard. And it fits under the billboard statutes.
Well, can I build a billboard?
Not if it's an on-premise sign, you cannot. I mean, and I don't know whether you can get the billboard because, frankly, I think you got to get the billboard through the DOT.
I mean,
in
a
that
billboard will
location.
probably make me more money than an on-premise sign.
Yeah, I think that's.
But I'm trying to do it like respectfully, you know, and I feel like I'm not being treated fairly here. I mean, the location is kind of non-negotiable because when you come around the hill off the interstate, you can't see it unless it's in that location. You know, I'm happy to make some changes to it and provide you guys with whatever information you need. I just like to be reasonable.
Tanya, that billboard in that location would be subject to South Dakota state law, isn't it? Because it's off the interstate.
Correct, and Dan Cooper has reviewed the application.
As a billboard?
No, as an on-premise sign.
Okay.
Because he asked what the difference was, and I explained to him what the difference was.
Yeah, so you'd have to go get the billboard permit and run it through South Dakota DOT.
So I have a question. If on lot 4, if you were to put a billboard, would that be is that an option? You know what I mean? Just trying to find a solution for what you guys are looking for.
Lot 4 doesn't have good visual from the interstate due to the farm place just north of it and trees and terrain. And it'd be a lot higher if we put it on lot 4, substantially higher.
But then it would fall under a billboard then, and not
put it on lot
premise?
4?
Right, that's my question. I don't know the answer. I'm just
Well, I really wasn't trying to go down the billboard route.
Right.
You know, just trying to keep it simple.
And I agree with that. I'm just throwing out ideas here.
Yeah, I just don't think it works for us to put it on lot 4.
I don't want to kill the variance because I think that there's some merit to it, and I appreciate you guys coming in. I would like to know if it actually does need the second variance for the height, which is something you can verify, and then a confirmation of surrounding signs for on-premise, classified on-premise signs that are in that area. So I would move to table this until the next meeting. That should allow for you guys to go through, find those answers, get the variance written out the way it needs to be. You know, tell us what we need to, what you're actually looking for a variance. Because if we just kill it, then you got to start all over. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
I appreciate that.
So in that situation, you wouldn't move to table. You'd move to continue.
Yes. Yeah.
Move to continue. I'll make a motion to continue.
Do I have a second? Motion and a second on the floor to continue this to our next meeting, which is August 26th. There need to set a time that wouldn't be necessary, would it? We can just do it during the planning.
During the planning portion.
Okay.
Yeah, this wasn't noticed as a hearing.
No,
Oh, you
no,
don't have to set a
no,
time.
no. I agree. So it'll be continued to August 26th. Any discussion to that motion?
Couple things I want to verify is whether you need the second variance, because it looks to me like you're requesting two variances. One's a size and one's a height. I don't know if you need the height variance. And then to answer the question on surrounding on-premise signs, size. So, I'd like to have the answer.
Yeah, I don't, just looking at your lot, you probably don't need the height variance. Measured, if I look at the ordinance and I've read it correctly, it's measured from road surface. It's all about how much higher you are over the road, not sitting down in a valley or in a washout or something. Washout.
Yeah,
Fine.
we can double check that.
You're gonna have to, frankly, if you come back and the one thing I would tell you, I'm not against maybe giving you a little bit bigger sign. I think you're asking for too much. It would help me if you can figure out where to center it on your lot, because if the guy to your south wants a sign, by you guys putting it so close to that property line and then oversizing it, you really impact his ability to have a sign. And so I tend to like to see the signs more centered in this situation.
Sure.
That makes sense to you?
Yeah, you want us to move it to the west?
Well, or I would call it north.
Oh.
Northish.
Yeah, that just kind of goes back to my, like, that
it's harder
cutout corner. There's, like, unusable for us in the future, you know? Like, we have stuff parked there now,
Okay,
which...
we've got a motion and a second on the floor to continue this to our August 26th. I'd encourage you to reach out to the commissioners or the planning staff if you have questions. Our emails are listed on our website, so
yeah, no problem.
If that'd be the best way to go about it. If they have questions or maybe to get them answered. So motion and second on the floor to continue this to our next meeting, which is August 26th. Any more discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you guys coming in. And again, I do appreciate you guys trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, you bet.
Brings us down to H3, final plat, Lot 2, Isler Ranch subdivision. Anybody here?
No, that's
Property?
mine.
Okay.
Go to the plat map real quick. This has been brought back a couple as a preliminary and a final. I did not get it on the consent calendar for the last meeting. That's why it's here in front of you on planning agenda. It is contingent on preliminary final through you. It was approved yesterday through planning commission or planning board as a final plat. This is I didn't follow the process. Didn't get on the consent calendar correctly.
Were there any conditions?
No. They met. They submitted their approach. They built their approach off of Tilford Road. It's all improved. The building permits are in order. Everything is ready to roll with this plot. It's just the lack of not putting it on the right agenda.
Yeah, this one's been in front of planning multiple times. Actually, it's been in front of the commission, I think, one time previously, hasn't it?
A lot beside it.
Okay, the lot beside it. Yeah, well, they had come in for a variance to build before the plat. I don't see any issues with this. We made them, as you see that drainage on the north side, they've already put in their approach and had the culverts installed to handle that drainage so they can get to their build area. This is kind of, the buyers of this property got kind of jammed up because the guy actually had come in and talked about platting these, and when we were saying the plats, then he just decided to sell them by 40s, and they're not quite 40s, so they can't get a building permit until they get it platted. So it took them some time, and this lot had that complication of the drainage on the north end, which is the access point off of Tilford. That planning wanted it to get the approach built before the plat was finalized. So, but the approach has been built and installed.
Hey, any other questions, comments on this, and/or action?
I do have a question. So it was not a 40. Was that with or without the dedicated right-of-way for Tilford?
So it was a 40. Aliquid described as the west half. southeast, northeast, instead of a quarter description, our ordinance requires quarter.
Okay.
So northwest,
And that's why.
southeast. Yep, it's because it's a long half is why we have to plat those.
All right. I'll make a motion to approve the
Final plat of Eisler.
Motion and a second on the floor to approve the final plat, Lot 2 of the Eisler Ranch. Any discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Brings us to H4, AR Ranch TIF number 3. As we previously mentioned, the Planning Committee yesterday voted to recommend that it's not accepted, and they also, the most important thing for us is they did not approve the boundaries on that TIF. So therefore, there is really nothing for us to act on today.
There is. They did not propose any boundaries, but the recommendation is made to the governing board for you to do what you want to do. So you don't have to follow their recommendations. Their recommendation is to not create. That's not an explicit thing in the statutes, but they have to have that right.
Okay, but the boundaries are not approved, so what would we have to approve?
Even if they sent you a set of boundaries, you still have the right to make your own boundaries. So you could override everything that the planning board did and create the TIF district with boundaries as proposed or as how you want to do them. The recommendation from the planning board is a recommendation. Your action should be either a motion to not create the TIF, if you want to follow the recommendation of the planning board, and then that kills the plan.
So what, and just question, obviously I don't have a law degree, but I have not, the only statute I've ever read was planning board creates the boundaries. So then, and so I'm confused on what there would be to approve.
Yeah, the 1194, the planning commission shall designate the boundaries of a district that the planning commission recommends be created, and the recommendations are submitted to the governing body. Thereafter, the governing body shall adopt a recommendation, shall adopt a resolution that describes the boundaries, which may be the same as the planning commission, with sufficient definitiveness. In other words, you can change the boundaries if they recommend.
But actually, well, not, I guess, and that's not my interpretation, because it says thereafter, after they accept it, then we can act on it, is how I would interpret that. But
to establish a district, you must adopt a resolution. That's 1195. And that resolution describes the boundaries. They don't give you any, that doesn't mean you can't create. If they gave you some, you could change them. Because, I mean, it gives you that explicit, it can be what was presented to you, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, and or action?
So, I'm not, these statutes aren't.
No, they're not clear.
They're not the clearest going, but to me, the planning commission has to adopt a project plan for each district.
Correct. The plan is the second step.
Yeah, so there was no project plan adopted yesterday.
Correct.
So, and since it was voted essentially down, it got confusing because I kept saying to the person making the motion, "Oh, what you're just doing is your motion should simply be not to recommend, but to deny." But he kept saying recommend, and so that's the way it passed. But I don't believe there's anything for us to act on. But I'm just going to make a motion that we not establish TIF number 3, so we can just move on. But I'm not sure that, given Plains action, whether we even have to do that. But I'll make that motion so it's clean in case, like I said, these aren't.
I think that clearly kills clearly kills it.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second to deny AR Ranch TIF number 3.
Yeah, just the AR Ranch, known as TIF number 3.
Okay.
it's not the third TIF for AR Ranch, it's the third TIF application for the county.
So if we'd clarify the minutes, AR Ranch known as TIF number 3, that would be clarified.
I have a question, maybe Rhea knows it. So is TIF number 1 the Hague TIF? And what was TIF number 2?
Now, TIF number 1 was Fort Meade Way Road, which was referred to a vote of the people.
Okay. I think that was the Fort Meade Way one.
That was the one. They followed, the increment followed the route of the proposed Keystone Pipeline. And the then commission referred that to a vote which took a lot of signatures, and it was resoundingly defeated.
So I would think, I wonder what side Doreen was on that. Because the reason I asked this is...
I was against it.
Yeah, it's fairly obvious for Doreen.
I just thought I'd make that record.
Yeah, don't want anybody guessing. And Tanya, maybe you could have some thought on this too. I don't know if Spearfish did TIFs, but I'm just going to raise this issue because it's a confusing issue, and I think it's going to cause confusion potentially in the future. When we say this is TIF number 4, the implication is for like Haynes is that there's 3 other TIFs have been passed. We've only ever had 1, so I'm not sure our numbering scheme makes sense.
We have the same issue in the city of Sturgis where there are TIFs that are proposed that are never followed through with, and each one just gets an additional number, whether it passes or doesn't pass. So this is not a unique situation.
Okay, before we go any further in the weeds, I want to take a vote on the motion, which is to deny AR Ranch TIF, which is known as, AR Ranch, which is known as TIF number 3. Any more discussion to that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
Okay. Continue.
I agree with you, Talbot. The statute is the first created gets number 1. Each subsequently created gets the next number.
Right. So I think,
and that's only when they're created. So we would have potentially, well, in this case, we would have 2 proposed TIF number 2s.
Right. I don't know which is more confusing, but but it makes
technically we could just call it North Haynes Avenue TIF.
Yeah.
Yes, until it's created,
then it would become number 2.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's just then people. I mean, if Sturgis has done that way, maybe that's just the way it's been done. I don't think that's the way they do it in Pennington County.
I don't think there's any harm in changing the way we number TIFs moving forward.
But the only thing is being maybe we'll never.
Maybe we don't number them until they're approved. We just give them a name.
Would probably be appropriate.
That probably makes the
probably a better course.
So maybe on the going forward, just to prevent confusion, because I got a lot of people saying, "Well, what's TIF number 1?" I don't know. There is no TIF number 1 as far as I know.
Okay, let's go down to H5. We got someone who's been waiting fairly patiently here today. Appreciate that. Which is the North Haynes Avenue TIF number 4, which was taken up by planning yesterday, and they chose, as Talbot mentioned, to continue this till their next meeting. I thought it was appropriate, and you're going to be in town anyway, to just kind of give us an overview, as much as anything to let us know what we are looking at, as well as it's a public meeting. So hopefully some people are listening online, and if there's any questions, hopefully there are not very many people here, but hopefully you'll answer them by your presentation. So if you'd like to go ahead and describe this for us, please.
Your mic's not on.
Please identify yourself.
There we go. My name's Quinn Reimers. I'm with Collier Securities in Pierre. Some of you may know Toby Morris. He's in Rochester for medical reasons. Not him, but his wife. The TIF today, well, not just for informational reasons, is essentially what we've created as existing homes and potential developable land is to be use the tax increment to offset costs associated with the North Haynes Avenue construction of that road. There's been a lot of questions regarding pages 5 and 6 in the TIF plan, where we've noted, there's certain developments that we've highlighted within the plan. Right up there, So we've had people give us calls regarding those, and it has nothing to do with those developments other than we are using that increment from those developments, not necessarily specifically those, including others, to offset the cost of North Haynes Avenue development, the road. It is not a developer TIF. It is strictly all increment goes back to the county for the to offset those costs associated with the road. Being that this has no commercial aspect to it. It doesn't really have an affordable housing aspect to it. It's not necessarily industrial. We've opted to use the local TIF classification with the Department of Revenue. That comes with some implications, not necessarily some outrageous ones, but we don't have any affordable housing. It's not a single developer developing homes. Economic development is typically, you got single-family homes, multifamily, with a commercial aspect to it. That makes it economic development. The industrial is obviously industrial development. The local is essentially what happens is with the other three that I just mentioned, the school is made whole through the state education formula. The local one, it is set through the school district. So the school district essentially has to raise an additional mill levy to offset those. It's very kind of a nominal mill levy that they have to raise for that. But anyway, the TIF before us, for you today here is essentially the textbook representation of what a TIF was made for. It's essentially, we're using private development, private homes, private taxes to offset costs of infrastructure for public. It's true. It was truly what a TIF was made for back in the day when the TIF was established. It's turned into a lot of over the course of many years. It's turned into a lot more than that. But this TIF is a true textbook in our eyes of what a TIF was essentially established for. I know we can sit here and talk about TIFs for several hours. I will just probably be quiet and leave it for questions for you guys.
Any questions, comments from the commission? Or I guess I'm just going to, is there anyone in the audience? There's not very many people here today, but does anyone in the audience have anything that they'd like to say or questions on it? Not seeing anybody in the audience wishing to come forward. As questions, comments from the commission?
I think it was Toby. Toby was in the meeting yesterday. Is that correct, Calvin?
Yeah.
Or he called in.
Yep.
Yeah, he was by teams.
So one of the things that I think that he mentioned was counties are not eligible for loans, and I thought that was a really interesting point. And I actually did not know that we could not get a loan. So we can bond if I understand correctly, but we can't get loans for projects. So the purpose of the Haynes TIF is to repay the $4 million that we just allocated today, and with whatever additional projects that are kind of identified in that TIF as well. But it allows for the county to kind of leverage the current funds that we have for future projects, is kind of how I would look at that. Am I correct?
You could look at it like that, but it's essentially made to reimburse you for the project costs. Because I know beginning of today when I showed up, the discussion of that $4 million was, it was been saving for several years, right? I mean, this is, the TIF is essentially here to, reimburse that, the county for this development, so this road. So.
Yeah, I appreciate kind of going through the presentation too. I had the same questions. I think I emailed it to you on 5 and 6 about whether or not those were, because the text was a little bit unclear, but the overall map, and I get it now, but
No, I know. I asked Toby if maybe we should take that out, but he thought, and I agree with him. It's a good idea to show, this area is kind of growing and expanding. So, hence the need and for a TIF.
Yeah, on these pages, I talked to Toby about them a little bit when they had a draft on it, and I said, well, this is what's happening out there. So, and I think it's good to show what's happening out there. I think the biggest concern, and what he was trying to get there, is he didn't want people to think that you're paying for any infrastructure for these developers. It was only Haynes Avenue. And so, there's some confusion there, but I think they want to be, there's a reason this road's beat up. There's a reason it needs to be rebuilt. And it's an interesting, these developers, they're beat up in infrastructure, but they take a lot of Tanya's time and the office time and Max's time and our inspectors' times and everything else too. There's a lot of cost involved in it. The fact that we can maybe recapture some cost on this, perfect sense to me.
You know, I've taken a lot of phone calls on both of these TIFs. County. And, I'll admit I'm not the most on TIF. And the problem being is there's a lot of different ways they're used. Some are, i.e. this maybe is beneficial. A lot of what we've seen, especially in Rapid City, is developer friendly, especially residential development, which a lot of people don't believe in. And I think that's something that needs to get out via you guys or us. Exactly how this is allocated, how it's spent, what it will or won't cost them, and that's some of their number one concerns is everybody around this part of the country reads about TIFs. Mm-hmm. And some have been beneficial and some have been so beneficial. And I think that the word TIF now is starting to scare people in a broad, vast range of it. Like showing the development stuff, which is good, saying that they're not getting anything, but some people feed to them to put in an airport or build 20 new houses or whatever. So I think in the process of this, definitely needs to be educated.
Yeah, I when I was writing this, I was kind of skeptical of whether that was going to be skewed, thought differently than what we were trying to portray. But yeah, right.
And
yeah.
From a lot of phone calls I've gotten.
Where that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And rightfully so by people.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
Like Rapid City, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And people, I think, are a little gun shy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just follow up something you said, Earl. I would agree that it's always difficult because talk about stuff, and we've talked about this, Rich and I have been involved looking at this for a long time, and there's no great way to market it out there. But I admit that perhaps there should have been more just introduction, or maybe even in planning level, is that we just had a discussion time on it a couple times to discuss it. The one thing I would say that I've been consistent with on TIFs throughout the county, even the one TIF that got awarded, is to me TIFs are for the infrastructure of the county, not the internal infrastructure. Should not be used for the internal infrastructure of the development. Build the road to get to that spot, fine, but once you get to his land or get that land, the build outs with internal, that needs to happen.
Well, since I was kind of one of the flies in the ointment yesterday and the month before at planning, I believe we put the cart before the horse. I assume you probably were watching the planning meeting yesterday, at least part of it.
I don't know if I was on that one.
And I have thought a lot about this. And, you know, I have informally mentioned this to a few members. Each meeting, the commissioners, they used to go around, do you have anything new to report? Do you have anything new to report? Do you have anything to report? And we used to share amongst the members different liaison committees that we were involved with. We used to know what was happening with your Metro Road thing or whatever down a rapid. I can't think of it right now. MPO. Okay. I used to tell you what used to happen with my things on the Chamber Board or JDC or whatever. We have had no means of sharing. When I first saw on the planning, on the last month, the Hewitt gift, yeah, I was angry. And then when Gary mentioned to me just when we were talking about something else that the Haynes TIF was going to be on the August meeting, yeah, I had a slow burn, probably a fast burn. And first of all, I thought, we have not set any priorities, any guidelines. Apparently you two have been working a whole bunch on it. Maybe you've talked to the other members. I did call Earl. I said, Earl, do you recall us discussing any of this? No, you know. And I think we probably could have also discussed some of it, possibly even an exec, if we were talking about a contract with Toby. You know?
Doreen, you were there when we hired Toby.
No, I wasn't.
No.
I do not. I have no recollection of hiring Toby or when Toby was coming on or what properties were going to be included along Haynes. To this time, I see that map down there with what properties are not, why are they not included? You know, I as a commissioner would like to know. Certainly, residents might like to know. But most importantly, if I'm going to make a decision, I want to know why somebody's in and why somebody's out. And I think that's a fair question.
You want me to answer that right now?
Sure.
I mean, a lot of those areas, first of all, there's a TIF in one of the areas, so that area is not included where the other TIF exists, because the absolute administrative nightmare for the auditor's office.
Right. Well, and that TIF has some problems anyway.
Oh.
Okay. So then the other, and I have no idea who owns any of this property so I'm just saying, you looked away at me at that. It isn't because I question who owns it, Talbot. It's just, I have no idea where anybody lives along these roads. And so I'm not making the insinuation that some properties were not included because of who they are, because I have no idea who any of these people are. We should have known it was coming, and I think the timing right after the motorcycle rally is kind of bad. I think we need to sit down and we need to put together what our priorities are. And if we are going to only make them for roads, fine. Then we can tell it. And does the county have to be the only one doing it? Or will there be private contractors who do a road? I didn't like the Hewitt one, in addition for the fact it's a 2-mile stretch in the middle of gravel all over the place.
So any private developer can apply for a TIF. I mean, they go through the same process that JD did.
Yes, I know they can.
We can't tell them not to, but we can
No, but we can be like other places and set our own priorities. For instance, I just learned yesterday that the only reason, because I could not understand why the rafter TIF got certified letters and the other group didn't. Well, I only learned after the meeting the reason why the rafter unit got them was because Megan is used to doing TIFs in Rapid City, and Rapid City requires certified letters, okay? That would have been nice to know. As a commissioner, I'd like to know a process. Talbot, you went after the guy about the signs, not knowing stuff. You see, that's the exact same type of feeling I had about the TIF thing coming forward. Not knowing. I am not anti-TIF, but I want to have some safeguards on TIFs. Living in Sturgis, we found out that those have not exactly all worked out well. And they do affect the overall tax. And I also believe that all the affected property owners need to be notified. I know state does not require it. But what is wrong with a little added transparency? What is wrong with sending out a one-sheet letter to the 117 affected landowners that I understand were involved in this TIF, with, if nothing else, a link? I don't know how much postage stamp costs right now, but I think it's like 56, 58, 60 cents, 70, whatever it is. It's a whole lot less than trying to backtrack and clean up a mess, because I guarantee you some of those 117 landowners will be in calling us everything else. How many of you get the Faith Independent? Okay. You used to, do you still? Oh, huh? Okay. So we had to advertise this notice in the Faith Independent, and yet not one of us commissioners get the paper. So how do we expect any of those 117 people to get it? Do I like that fact? No. But those state laws were written when we used to have newspapers.
I'm going to clarify that. I looked up statute last night. That's a question. Just add to that. Ken, if you could look up, I looked up statute last night, and it says that the notification has to go out in a legal newspaper. It doesn't say the legal newspaper of the county, which I found interesting. So, which tells me that it could go into any legal newspaper. But I wanted Ken to, since you brought it up, I didn't mean to go ahead.
But even so, and the Black Hills Pioneer, I believe, is getting additional coverage. But 117 letters sent out to the U.S. Post Office, I do not believe is too much for us to cover. It's the whole manner in which, and I did find, Talbot, I did not recall ever Hewitt mentioning a TIF, and I said that yesterday, and then you corrected me, and then ironically, for full disclosure, last night when I was looking up the comparable numbers for the amount of motorcycle traffic on the roads that Troy had sent, there wasn't an agenda item that Hewitt had come forward asking about a TIF. And that's before Earl was on. So then it said down there, no mention about any voting. So I went to the minutes to see what our minutes said about Mr. Hewitt's presentation before the board. Well, apparently it was so nondescript, it didn't even make it into our official minutes. So I have no idea, and I do not even recall what was even said.
That meeting was just discussion. He just brought forward to us an idea at that point in time, so there was no action taken.
Right.
Yeah,
He came
I know.
forward and proposed a TIF.
Huh?
While you were here, he proposed that TIF and talked about it, and we said we'd entertain potentially. Some of us said we'd entertain potentially doing the main road, but not the interior roads. We had a discussion on that. And the fact that it didn't make the minutes, then maybe that's a testament that we need in these non-action items to take better minutes. But again, Doreen, for you to basically imply you've never heard about any of this stuff is just wrong.
No, I have not heard any follow-up from you or Rich about any of the meetings that apparently have been going on in the glass room.
You're just wrong. Then you're just misremembering, because I know there's been discussions. We're going to have a meeting. We're discussing this. I know I've had those discussions with you.
You've said you have not given any information follow-up as to what happened or that a TIF was coming forward in August. I'm sorry.
Well, let's...
Maybe you talked to Gary, but apparently Earl said he hadn't heard anything either. So apparently, not.
Okay, let's visit about, is there any more questions, comments on the Haynes Avenue TIF? The biggest question I'm getting, Mr. Reimers, is taxes. What's this going to do to the taxes of the people within the district? Taxes, obviously, basically it's the whole county that's going to make up the difference on the local. So would you explain that?
Yeah. Sorry. It's the school district that makes up people within the Meade County School District that make up the difference, because the only taxes with a local TIF that change are the state education formula isn't replenished by the state with a local TIF. It's replenished by the local tax base, which is the school district in Meade County. It's a fairly nominal amount, and Toby and I on the way here, I talked to Toby on the phone on the way here, he said it'd probably be a good idea to have a calculation to figure out what that amount may be per person, or if it's a pretty nominal amount, it's probably.
But it's not just the people within the district that makes that up.
Right.
It's so for, if it was Meade 46-1, it would, which this would, I don't think everything is in Meade 46-1 within the proposed.
The entire county is not within 46.
No, I understand that, but this TIF, but the rest of the people living within 46-1 would make up the difference for the school aid, for the local effort. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be the people living within the TIF, is what I was getting at.
Correct. Well, yeah, they wouldn't make up any of it. I just did a calculation because I don't know the school district base number. The county's base number. The property in the Haynes TIF is approximately 6% of the total basis of the county. Not 6%, 0.6%. So less than a percentage, just to give you an idea.
So in statute it requires it to be within, is it 10%? Is that of all taxing authorities, 10%. Or is that just
10% of your total base, the county's taxable value?
Yeah. Okay. So it's got to be it's got to be less then. So
all your TIFs combined.
So it's not just one taxing authority. So like North Haynes, Fire Department. I mean, that could I don't think it'd probably, well, I don't know what it'd be, so I don't want to speak. There would be potential for a taxing authority to be within that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's on page, I'm not sure what page it is, we can look on here. There's, we have the base value and.
There is on page, that's where I was pulling the numbers. Because their report actually includes the Hague TIF when they look at the numbers to show that to show what the base relationship is.
Right there. Oh, no, keep going.
I think the Hague TIF, if we look at that TIF document that the Property Tax Committee released, it amounts to 0.4% of our tax base. But I can't find that publication anymore.
Yeah, you're on the page right there. The Hague TIF, the base of the Hague TIF's at 10.2. So.
And that TIF 3, I talked to Robin at Department of Revenue. She just said put 0 because it wasn't certified. Obviously, we talked about that.
Yeah, so even if you add the Haynes in to the other TIF, you're below, still less than 1% of the total county base. The state laws, you got to be under 10.
Okay, any other questions, comments for Mr. Reimers?
I have a question. What's current bonding interest rate?
For county?
Yeah.
That's a good question. That would all depend on your rating.
I would assume Meade County would have a good rating.
That's a good question. For Toby.
Do you have any idea what any other counties recently have paid?
Oh, I know there's one on the eastern side we did was a AA rating. And I think they're in that 4.5 range. Yeah, sorry. Well, that's a guesstimate. I remember correctly.
And that was for probably a 20-year, or was that a school bond or something?
No, that was a county, not a school. I'm not entirely sure what it was for. Just did. I had to sit in the rating. It was the courthouse.
Okay.
Yep.
And what do the bonding companies currently charge?
Also a good question. I don't know. The rating agencies?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It'll
depend.
You'd have to have a bond attorney, correct?
Yep.
And then the agency, and
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested in all those costs.
It depends on the size of the issuance for sure, and what kind of issuance you're going to do.
Since I've been on the commission, I've not had any occasion to ask any bonding questions.
Okay. Sorry, I couldn't answer all of them for you.
Yeah.
When I was on the city council, it was a relatively a frequent thing. So
just one clarification: we're not talking about bonding this at all. I mean, so I don't want the public to think that we're going to have bonding costs associated with this project.
No, but aren't you going to Toby to raise the funds?
No, we have the money.
We've already paid.
We've already awarded the project. You were here to award the project, Doreen.
Yes,
do you not remember
which I favored, which I couldn't understand why, if we award the project, why we have to have it TIF'd. Explain this to me. Like I said, I am not understanding this.
So the TIF is a payback structure.
Right. I understand
even
that.
if a developer goes out, he can put his own cash down and not borrow the money and do the project. You do not have to borrow money. And in fact, this happens, how governments often do it is they'll save up money for 10 years, do a project, and they might TIF it to get that capital fund restored. They don't go out and borrow it. We're not borrowing a dime.
Okay, this is the first I knew this. And so when I see Toby on there, what do I associate Toby with?
Well, when we talked about hiring Toby, we talked about him hiring him just to do the TIF documents when we talked about that.
So last year, we did the 25 assessments, and we put $5 million in assignment.
Right.
We released that today.
Right.
For the project. This is a way so Talbot and I have been talking about doing TIFs for projects, 6 years probably in commission, on different types of projects. This one is the first one that made
We've talked about it during meetings.
And it allows for the county to utilize the money that we've saved. We build the project, but then we're hoping to replenish that fund, pull that money back in from the area that's using the road to build the money again for another project. So this is in the way that I look at this is I can't guarantee that we're going to do another road project, right? So the $5 million or 5.5 we got of ARPA funds is what this TIF, what this Haynes project came from.
Right.
And as far as I know, in the current administrations, that's not going to happen again.
Never going to see it again.
Right. So this is our one nest egg essentially. Once we spend that, it's gone. So one way to get that back is to utilize the increase in development.
I can see replenishing a capital expenditure fund. Okay.
And then that's what this does.
Okay. That I think's great. When I see Toby, I figure, okay, we're going to go out there and we're going to bond or borrow. I shouldn't say bond. Borrow money to pay for a road that we already allocated $4 million for from our ARP.
This is just to pay back our piggy bank.
Yeah, when the commission hired Toby and voted to hire, or not Toby, Colliers, it was just to do the TIF plan documents. That was the contract. That was voted on by this commission and discussed by this commission.
But we never said for Haynes. We never said for how soon. I must have missed it. I must have missed that part. But
what did you think we were hiring him for then, Doreen?
I didn't know exactly.
Is there any other questions about this TIF? Mr. Reimers has been very patient with us today, and I certainly do appreciate that. You've listened to some long discussion, and I certainly do appreciate you coming in and Toby being here via Teams yesterday. As I mentioned earlier, yeah, we needed to have, this had to hit our agenda first at some point in time, and today was the day. Again, this is set up today, especially as no action. Had the planning board voted, I don't know what would have happened, but same time it was, we have to start this discussion. Hopefully if there's more questions out there, yeah, they can reach out to us. So if there's no more comments or questions, we'll continue on with our agenda. I think Mr. Reimers has been, like I said, very patient and has probably some other things to do today.
If anyone has questions, you don't know, just absolutely throw them our way, Toby or I. I know you're probably going to see stuff from the public naturally, and that's just how it works. So let us know, and we'll get it changed, and we're taking care of that.
I do have one more question. If a property is within a TIF, it can get another TIF on top of it. Is that correct?
You can.
And it's very messy, but
yeah, it's pretty ugly.
Not what we want to do, but that question was brought up to me, and I said it can happen. It's not preferred. Certainly,
it can happen. It can get ugly. It's just like I that it's an administrative nightmare. Deadwood did 4 in 1.
Oh.
Yeah, people weren't very happy about it when it was all said and done. So, yeah.
Sturgis did it at Lynn's Dakota Mart. Back when Chuck Vanderzeel did them.
Thank you for coming today.
Yes, absolutely.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be reaching out, and we'll probably be seeing you again in the near future. So, thank you. Let's go down to I, Commission, which in communique. There was a letter from USDA in regards to that letter that we sent out opposing the wilderness designation. It informed us that there was nothing proposed, essentially is what the letter says, which we knew that. We just wanted to make sure that that stayed off that proposal list. So I just wanted to point that out. Also a letter from FAA about a wind turbine in Hocking County, it looks like. And a note, grant writer from NeighborWorks. Anything anyone wants to discuss in communique? Not, let's move down to I-2. This is a requirement from new statutes this year that requires us to review the open meeting laws and to set that up. I hope everybody's had a chance to take a look at them.
What? A question: does planning committee have to set this on their agenda to review too?
I believe it says all boards.
So, is there any questions on this?
We need to put a link on to the agenda on the planning meetings. I don't think the current one's got a link to the agenda.
Where? I'm sorry, Doreen, I'm not following.
On the cover, when you open up Meade County, and you'll see it shows the planning meeting, and then it shows the commission. The commission has a link to its agenda. Go back up. Well, it has subsequently changed, but like yesterday, it had the planning meeting, but it didn't have a link to the agenda.
You mean on this calendar portion?
Yeah, on the calendar.
Anybody, again, we have to say we reviewed this, so therefore, is there any questions on anything within this open meetings law guide or anything about open meetings? Our Deputy State's Attorney is here if we have questions, so we could certainly ask, and that would, I would assume, would qualify as our review. So if there's no questions, we'll move down to consent.
I have no questions.
Okay. Rich has no questions. Nobody has any questions. Let's move down to consent calendar. Motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
A motion and second on the floor to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion to that motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Exec session. Is there a need to go into exec session today? I was hoping to visit a little bit about the ambulance contract, but Doreen, you have any updates?
No, and I don't see the sheriff here today.
I don't see him here either, so any other reason to go into executive session? Okay, well, let's just go down, and therefore it looks like we've concluded our agenda and our business, and I'll declare us adjourned.